And we'll
The following
apologize in
program
advance
deals with a
if Brian
controversial
and I just bug you about
subject.
G.I.
The
Joe
theories
shit about
expressed are not the
halfway
only
through.
possible interpretation.
The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
Oh, hey Josh, let's break the internet with that G.I. Joe 36 variant that you just found. Back on your shelf.
Oh, yeah. Let me grab that. I'll have it ready.
Yeah, dude, this blew my mind, and I thought I knew everything about Blaylock's G.I. Joe run. Yeah. You ever see this one, Brian? Yeah, we'll talk about this tonight.
Neither had I.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna get a different one that's not slabbed because it'll
Yeah,
more
not
visible.
shiny. Not shiny.
The top talents in the comic book business are here to tell everything they know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Industry of Comics show every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. I get to hang out with these two knuckleheads, both 28-year veterans of the comic book industry and in the trenches, as you would say.
I thought of a new way of saying that, Brian. We probably should have talked about this before the show. Over 60 years combined experience.
Yeah.
Over 62 years combined experience in the comic book industry. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Dennis Barger from Wonderworld Comics and Jesse James from Jesse James Comics. Yeah, there we go. Jesse just got done literally slanging books. Right as were starting this, he's jumping from his live sale on eBay to jump over with us and ready to go.
There's actually two shows still slinging, but you got to be multilateral. You got to be able to jump from one area to another area. We got one show going on in Glendale, another show going on in Avita, Florida, and then we're hanging out with you all out here, getting ready to have some fun and talk about Q1 and conventions and all that cool stuff.
Yeah, we had a big weekend, C2E2 this weekend, and to start off the show, you guys know we like to bring you some of the biggest and best creators and industry professionals. And we've got a local boy to C2E2 to the Chicago area. Dennis, why don't you introduce our new guest?
Yeah, so Josh and I have been friends for decades. I've actually been kind of a fly on the wall for a lot of the big moments in Josh's publishing career. Just us hanging out, and he gets a phone call or a text message, and is like, "What the hell just happened?" So, if you don't know, Josh Blaylock, publisher, editor-in-chief, everything of Devil's Due Publishing. Let's bring Josh in, everybody.
Josh, thanks for being here, brother.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Likewise.
So I can honestly say Josh is one of my oldest, longest friends in the industry. We've done a lot of work together, but we've had a lot of fun together. And when we said, let's dedicate this show to C2E2, because it literally is, if not the third, the fourth biggest show in the United States. And Josh has been a part of it the whole way through. So let's bring Josh in so he could tell us what C2E2 means to him in the local comic scene.
Yeah, man, I can't believe that show's been around 14 years now.
Yeah,
it's wild. Yeah, I was like, I remember when it was first announced, everyone was just so happy to have a show in the city again. Because if you live here, like, I mean, Rosemont is not, it's just out in the burbs. It's not a real Chicago show. Although now in hindsight, sometimes I'm like, man, it's really convenient to get to Rosemont. I can get there faster than I can down to McCormick Place. But yeah, I kind of like both of them, you know. I wish both of them to do well. So yeah, it's as far as we go, like, it's never, honestly, people have a phenomenal show there. I know several people in Artist Alley say it's like their best show in the industry. It clearly has one of the biggest and best Artist Alley, Artist Alleys in all of the comic book industry, probably in the world, to be frank. Like, I think there's something like 400 tables, and 150 of those are probably legit,
yeah, top tier,
solid names,
yeah.
And then still high level talent, even if they're just more, smaller names. So, but I've done everything there. I've had 10 by 10 corner booths. I've had 20 by 20 islands, and I've been in Artist Alley once. I've done, I've been in small press. I think I had 2 retailer booths one year. They put us in some weird spots, but it's,
you had
as a publisher,
didn't you have a van there one time?
2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, I had bought this, I had done so much touring, and I just, on the side, I'm like a nerd for like all the van life algorithm. And I got, this perfect, pristine, like 1988 Ford Econoline that someone had renovated into a camper. Kept it for 3 years, I think, and then I tricked it out with company colors because it was already red and white on the outside, and our company colors are red, white, and black. So I made it red and black inside, and then COVID hit, and everything was shutting down, and I sold it to a couple of like 23, 24-year-old, this guy and girl who, wanted to just get out of town, and I was like, here, go defile this thing all over the country.
Yeah.
I sold it for more than I paid for it. So
you've been all around the country doing the cons. Where would you put C2E2 now as like in the hierarchy of cons? Because I've even heard some people saying like they put it up there in the top 5, top 3 maybe, especially with a lot of the news this year. Comics is a lot different than it's been in the last 5 years. Things have totally changed. What would you say where C2E2 is at, in your opinion?
I wouldn't say it's not in those. It just really depends on what you're going to the shows for. And I'm always just looking at it from the publisher and artist exhibitor perspective. It's really hard. I mean, I literally have not really been a standard attendee at a show ever, because I've been exhibiting a show since I was 18. So, that's only a few times I've ever just gone to the shows, And then even then, if you're in the industry, you get your badge and stuff. So from my perspective, it's good, but it's also been weird to me that like I'll go to much, much smaller cities, and they'll have bigger attendances. Like, so I mean, I would put C2E2 and now here's the thing. I caveat this with I have not been to very many shows since everything opened back up. And then even the ones that I did go to were kind of like in that weird stage where they're like, oh, we got to fulfill our contract with the union and the city and the convention center. So and they didn't really get back to their full steam until a little later. So I've only been to a handful of mixed bags. But based on history, like Phoenix Comic-Con, way smaller city, huge con. And they would like roll out the carpet for us, like fly me out, give me a hotel. So, they would want artists and the publisher there, and had great green room set up and everything. And the attendance was great, and the audience was, hungry for books.
Did somebody pay you to say that?
I know. I'm like, wait a minute here. What year are you talking about?
And then then they had that, obviously that Psycho came in and really screwed everything up for them.
Josh, you bring all this up, and you're talking to two guys in Phoenix, that have been to those cons. One of the guys that helps run it.
Ran it,
And getting back to you being at all these cons since you were a teenager, I want to kind of drop into that since you brought it up, because you've been in this industry a long time, and Dennis kind of let you in on a little bit of our geekdom, or at least my geekdom and his geekdom, and that being the G.I. Joe run that you guys did, and just being so amazing. And I remember the first time that I came up to you at a Phoenix Con, and I told you about G.I. Joe and how much I was in love with it, and it was pretty cool to talk to you about that. And you must have found some type of crazy book that has to do with that G.I. Joe era at the con this year, it sounds like.
Yeah. So, I didn't find it at the con, but I was just telling Dennis about it at the con, and because he had the privilege of coming to the office. We had the privilege of his presence. So there's this book that, like, the end of the license, it was issue 36 of G.I. Joe, America's Elite. That was the last book we did, like 2008. And so, like, just like a year, or like I don't even know if it was a year ago, Sam Wells, my former assistant publisher, who was now like owner of Toy de Jour, this pretty famous vintage toy store in town, we're talking, and he mentions this special super limited staff cover. I'm like, what are you talking about? So apparently there was a staff cover. There was a cover made that was only given to staff, and things were so chaotic then. And like, I had another kind of like CEO partner in the company who I was trying to get out of the company at the time, but I don't know if he approved this or what, or if it was just kind of done. I don't know if staff were just like, we're just doing this and not saying anything. And then something happened where like copies weren't distributed. Something weird happened with the copies, that they didn't get sent out. So I don't know if there's like 20 of these, 50, but it's this cover, and
Wow.
it's drawn by a combination of people. Mike O'Sullivan, our old editor and senior editor, he drew the majority of the front cover. I don't know if Mark Powers had something to do with part of it, but this is Mike Baer, who was the artist interior at the time, drew me with like my old little rockabilly pompadour, like old school GI Joe, dude. So Sam gave me this copy, and then he had a couple more that he was trying to get taken care of, and I got this.
Yeah.
So
That's beautiful.
It's one of those things that it's so rare the collectors didn't even know it existed.
So rare it's worthless.
Yeah.
And now recently they started finding out more, like learning more about it. So there's one on eBay now that they posted for like, as almost like as a joke, posted for $40,000. And
somebody will
and then he's
offer.
Well, he's gonna put it up at auction, and like, but that was just sort of to get attention.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. But I mean, it's kind of hard. Never say never. I won't say I wouldn't
do
sell that, but
I do a show every Friday night on YouTube with my good buddy Ben Steiniger. He does a show called the Hot 10 Show, where it's basically we look at the secondary market. He's been doing it for 6 years. He started out with a company called CBSI. He's branched out on his own. But we've been doing this show for 6 years, and we go through. He goes through like all the sales from eBay and Heritage and stuff, and he looks at everything. He's got a way he does things, and I think GI Joe variants from the Image years, the Devil's Dues years, the America's Elite years, like that whole time period has some of the most rare and collectible and wanted variants in comics that those GI Joe runs. Especially some of those rare graham cracker ones. Were you part of that? And can you talk about some of those crazy graham cracker variants?
You have to refresh my memory on them.
So Michael Turner did a variant for the Renegar edition. They call it the Renegar edition, I think. And
yeah.
There was that one that Graham Crackers did, which was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, and then it had a silver foil version. There was a ruby foil cobra symbol on an all black cover that was absolutely gorgeous. There was a homage to Captain America 1, I believe, where Snake Eyes is punching Cobra Commander. Just these amazing variants, specifically from Graham Crackers that through that time period that are just like held up like Zelda or Link finding the piece of the Triforce for some people. So great period.
It's funny too because variants weren't as big of a thing then, right. It wasn't anywhere near. So now like they're probably more rare. I don't remember, our numbers were so big and like what we were selling then. I don't remember like when we get a variant, it'd be like we're selling like 60,000 copies of something and somebody wants to order 1,000 copies of a variant. It was always great, but it wasn't like some big thing to, be a set now. Whereas now it's like all these variants are a big part of the production. But the Renegar edition is actually even rarer or weirder than that because that was just Michael Renegar came to me. He was the vice president of Palisades Toys that had the license.
Oh yeah.
To all of they made those amazing statues and everything. He's just a huge fan. The way I met Mike Renegar from Chattanooga, Tennessee, comes up to me in San Diego, and he's like talking about having a Joe license. I have no idea who this guy is, and he's like, "Just want to let you know, you fuck up Storm Shadow, I'll kill you."
He was such a character too. I remember there was a Pittsburgh. Do you remember Pittsburgh where you were next to him? Your booth was next to the Palisades booth, and I think you were making the trading cards. But he was never at his fucking booth because he was at the toy show going on next door, and him and somebody else were trying to gather up as many of the Cobra Vipers so that they had a running battle on who had more complete Cobra Vipers in their collection.
Oh yeah, that sounds like him. Yeah. He would say like, "No, I have a G.I. Joe collecting problem," and then you'd laugh and he'd go, "No, I have a problem."
Yeah.
But he was also personal friends with Michael Turner, and
Yeah.
Michael Turner was also doing the cover for me with Serpentor. And these,
Well, and that's the
rare one.
Pittsburgh Comic Con. That is the only time I beat Michael Turner in pool as well. So it's a very important moment for me.
Yeah, they but yeah, I don't remember how many we made of that, but it was you know, Turner was happy to do it because he was friends with everybody, and then we got that made. We did the smaller foil version of it as well. And,
which was also weird.
All went directly to Mike Reniger.
There was also a weird thing with that foil version, and I don't know if you remember this, and I'm just bringing it up because it just popped in my head. I felt like there was something with the foil versions where maybe the foil got stamped offset a little bit, and there's some of those copies that have like almost like an air foil stamp where it's so offset. Do you remember that at all?
No, but I remember that always being a problem back then with foils.
Yes, yes.
I don't think the technology was as good then or something.
No, you're right.
It was enough that it was common enough that like it wasn't a reason to send it back to the printer.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and this is another reason why Josh and I have been, working and friends for so long. No matter how big the project was, Josh always took the time to do retailer variants, convention variants. I remember there was one Motor City, Josh, where, and I'll get into the backstory on it too, because I always love bringing this up, where you did that convention sketch edition where you had a blank area on it and you were hand drawing that sketch edition for every person that came up. And I think it was like for $5 or $10 at your booth, and you would do a custom head sketch on the variant, and you were literally locked at your booth, and you sent one of your employees to the green room to get you food, and the owner's mom at Motor City yelled at her for trying to sneak food out.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And that was
I
like
remember
the
that
biggest
now. Yeah.
scandal.
That was
It's like,
that was
dude, I'm sitting at this booth drawing sketches for every single person that comes up as a benefit to your show, and you're yelling at my person for getting me a couple cookies and a soda.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It can be
So,
weird.
Josh, I have a question to go back. Oh, no, go ahead. If you want to finish that story, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Jesse.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, you go ahead.
Okay, no. So I was going to say, going back to the convention as a publisher, can you explain what is it about a publisher they're looking for? Is it about visibility? Is it about the handshakes? Is it actually about sales? What does a publisher look at on Monday when they leave?
I mean, most publishers, I guess, are just looking for a vibe check. Like, do they feel like somehow, if it's quantifiable through sales or something, then that's an easy check. Like, oh, we did great, But otherwise, it's usually more like unquantifiable. Like, hey, do we feel like a combination of things happened? We made enough of our money back. We feel like we got new people following us on socials and got new email signups. Press to flesh, and then did we happen to get to have any good experiences hanging out afterwards with artists or retailers? Did we lock in any retailer variant deals? Kind of like everything. But it's so weird too how different it is. Like, publishers almost like very rarely make their money back at a show, and like retailers, honestly, I'm blown away sometimes when I hear how much just a small little retailer booth made selling comics all weekend compared to us when we might have been there, even when we had like much larger licensed titles, just because it's completely different little worlds within the con. And then you are looking at the psychology of the customer. Like, when they walk through this area, they have this in mind, but when they go to the publisher, if it's a lot of cons are set up more like flea markets now, where it's not really as easy to define the areas. But when you're at the bigger shows where it's clearly got a publisher area, it seems like the psychology of the attendee is more like, I want to get free stuff. I want to look at, maybe I go in there from exclusives that you were promoting, and then I'm off to Artist Alley.
Yep.
And then, so like what we would do when I, for the last, decade prior to COVID, mostly I had all these different creator-owned titles. that we were promoting, and I started setting it up so that we would, if a convention offered us to come out with they wanted a publisher presence, and offering us a big booth, I'd say, hey, can you give us a smaller company booth and then just cover some artist alley spots, because the artist in artist alley would make 3 times more than we would have selling their stuff. And then if we're splitting sales, say if it was a 50-50 deal or whatever, we would do better that way, and the artist would do better. And and there was even all we just had to do was make sure that we were supporting them. So it's kind of weird. And I know artists in Artist Alley that just will crush it. Then you hear like what these print wall guys sell sometimes, and I never know if anyone's telling the truth or not. You'll hear a print person say they made 10 grand, 12 grand or something, and it's like, did you? I don't know. So yeah, it's a very vague answer, but that's kind of what it's like. Every con is different. Every single con is different, and when you figure it out, the next year it changes. And I feel like I'm always curious. Like on the retailer side, it seems like you guys have a much more, like you guys have a plan. You have a number you've got to hit, and otherwise, if you don't do that after a couple times, you're not going back to that show.
Right.
Well, and
sure.
I'll give you my background on. So this show was kind of a new test for me. My kids have heavily invested us in Pokemon cards, and rightfully so. It's a huge segment of the market. It's huge in our store, but I wanted to see how this would do. And I got a booth tagged along with another exhibitor, and they gave me the worst booth I could possibly have.
It was possibly the one of the worst locations I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was like, why did you sell this booth? It's like the obstructed view at a baseball game. Yeah, you're not going to get hit by a ball, but you're not going to see a second of this game. And so Friday we did horrible, and I said, hey man, you got to move me out of here. So they moved us first thing Saturday morning. And I had a number in mind of what I wanted to do. Yep, there we go. I had an idea for what I wanted to do in my head. We did that number on Saturday by itself. So the little bit we did on Friday and the pretty decent amount we did on Sunday was just absolute gravy.
That's interesting, man. So this
well,
was
you know what?
There's something to be said too about, and I always struggle with this because we have a lot of stuff, is when you just have one thing,
right?
And you really just say, this is what I've got, you want it or not. And like, I think that really attributes to the success of Stylin's T-shirt towers, throughout their first 15 years of doing that.
Yeah.
Well,
he started with me at Pittsburgh.
They started with a table and
10x10
some wrestling
booth.
shirts. And
Yeah.
like if and I have done that where like actually that's some of my most effective booths have been where like I have scaled it down to just more of my stuff. Even then, just Mercy Sparks, which is supernatural title about a devil chick that hunts rogue angels for heaven. So just have everything black, black table skirts with the logo, two big black banners with the 2 different covers on them, and then like the thing in the middle, and then like in the books, so anyone from 100 feet away sees it, they know right away if that's something they want or not. So if anyone walks up to your booth, they almost always are interested because you've already pushed away the people that aren't. Sure. There's something to that, versus this mixed variety and plethora of all kinds of things.
Well, there was a great point here where they said Pokemon are evergreen for sure. Are you focused on evergreen stuff at the conventions, or are you bringing something extra?
Right now it's we're really small right now, so I'm just focused on my stuff mostly.
Okay.
Just and I'm trying to parse it down to supernatural, sci-fi, and just the projects I'm working on. So like Mercy Sparks just had a new issue for the first one in a few years. No More Angels Left to Fall. There's Club Nephilim, which is that's great. So Club Nephilim is coming out this summer. There's it's the first ever spinoff out of Mercy Sparks, and that's just the new issue 0 to kick it off. It's there's a subplot of a sort of a supernatural Illuminati brothel / like black market in the Mercy Sparks universe called Club Nephilim, and it was run by these really horrible demonic people that now have been dethroned by an angel that they once had enslaved. Now she's taken over, but she's still keeping things. She's still keeping things. It's like basically a manager with much better working conditions.
Sure.
So it's a little less jokey than Mercy. Still has fun with itself, but it's a little darker, I think.
There was some,
and it's got some boobies in it.
You posted this on your page a while ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah, this is super cool. Can you talk about this?
Yeah, that was so that was the third comic I was ever self-publishing, and it eventually ended up becoming called Misplaced. Little Nasty was a title based on how she was treated by and looked at by these like weird alien overlords that had her in some other dimension, and it was this real restrictive. It was a very fun-looking B-movie futuristic society, but it was actually very restrictive and weird and controlling. And she escapes to our world in my old Cincinnati college punk rock town of Clifton, Cincinnati. But yeah, I had ash cans ready to go. I think that was made specifically for Mid Ohio Con. And then I literally had not seen one in God knows how long. And this dude up in Portage Park here in town, he makes those period panties and a bunch of other Chicago-based
t-shirts.
T-shirts.
That guy's a genius.
Well, now he's doing STFU. You don't live here. Shut the fuck up. You don't live in here, Chicago, because the Chicago being on the news all the time and sometimes fairly represented, a lot of ways not fairly represented. And it's just like STFU. You don't live here, and it's just got all the local references that only if you live here. He's killing it. He's got to start doing other cities too, I think. But he found that in some box of comics he bought, and I was like, holy shit, I haven't seen that in forever, and it's pretty fun. It might be the first ever thing that has the Devil's Due logo on it.
That's why I brought this up, because printed. I love things like this.
All right, open it up, Brian. Open it up and update.
So this is one of my favorite things. I love finding these cool creator niches. These first published. This is a cool one because you said it's probably the first time with the old Devil's Due logo on it, and these cool old ash cans. But mainly, I love to hear stories about their first published work. What was your first published work?
It was March '96, and it was a book called Minotaur. It was like a black and white paste up letters that I printed out on my parents' Mac, trying to guess what size I would use. God forbid, before we all knew better, I used Comic Sans, and then I would cut it out and paste it up, and
it's got the word comic in it. Why wouldn't you use Comic Sans?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then send it off to the printer to take photos of it and print it. I think it was Brenner Printing in Texas. And then, I got distributed through Diamond. I think what's funny is I think I sold, at least a couple thousand copies in an issue just through Diamond, which now is still not bad for like more well-known books. And I distributed through Capital because that was right before they were done, before they ended, and started doing all of the little cons I could with my $400 Volkswagen Rabbit. Driving this, I lived in Ohio and Cincinnati, so I'd go to Columbus and Pittsburgh and Indianapolis, and anywhere I could get that my car would take me.
Did you ever go to Trader's World outside of Cincinnati and try to set up and do your thing there?
No, I've been there, but I've never set up.
Okay, I love that place. It's one of the best flea markets anywhere in the world.
I imagine it's still around.
It is.
Just a few miles north of Butter Jesus.
Yeah.
So, when you started in 96, so you got about 96 through 2002 is still, you got the bad woman craze going on. Was that bigger then, or do you think it's kind of surpassed where strong women, bad women still rule the world as far as comic books go?
I think it's It's hard to. Well, I don't think you can judge it on numbers wise, just pure units. It's probably still way bigger back then because everything was,
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
as far as. But there's probably more stuff now. There's probably more
Billy
options
Tucci
now.
says that when he got his check for Cyblade
She.
Cyblade She,
Mm-hmm.
he bought everyone he knew a Jeep, a brand new Jeep. That's how
Yeah.
big that check was.
Wow.
Yeah, so the closest we come to that now is like, you know, Kickstarters and stuff like that. But it is interesting, the specific, like, there's super, like, you know, whatever, sexy books now and all that. And there's all ranges of like what that means. But the specific 90s bad girl retro is, you know, really making a comeback. It seems like in the last few months, to be honest, like seeing those things pop up. Like Brian Polito came back with Lady Death, but that was always kind of its own universe anyway, you know? But like those specific deep cut indie bad girl books. And now even like Tim Seeley's having fun with that with Local Man.
Love Local
He's
Man.
got, you know, really cleverly making this bad girl like homage. And he even got, I think he's got like sexy like old version of Witchblade in it, stuff like that. But I think now me back then, I was this like angsty kind of punk rock kid that was trying to like make my own stamp on it, and I was so against all the bad girl books. I was like, it was that era where I want these comics to be treated and be respected, and
Right, sure.
I don't want, I don't want to be looked at as some like drooling
You
nerd.
didn't want to be Ricky Carrillo.
I don't remember that.
Double Impact, remember Double Impact?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that? I think that might be coming back too.
It is. Yeah. Shout out to Sean. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny though now, the explosion of all of these, like over the years, comics getting that respect, being looked at more as a real medium. We can tell all kinds of stories, and the mainstream will still, they don't get any of this shit. But like most people who are interested at all in pop culture now, they get it. Like comics aren't just superheroes, and there's all kinds of stuff. And now 40% of comics are actually manga anyway. So now, like, we had this real big run with all these diverse, everything from LGBTQ books to like different layers of sexuality, and raunchy stuff allowed to happen.
Right.
Kind of made it so that, like, well, wait a minute. Well, then what's wrong with the old stuff? What's wrong with the bad girl books? And it's like, oh, nothing. We were just all too uptight, and now it's kind of like canceled each other out. So now it's like okay to do everything. So now it's kind of fun because those old bad girl books are sort of like now allowed to have a little bit, almost like have that respect in a weird way. And
there was a sale this week. I think I told Jesse about it. There was a sale this week there was a Dave Stevens cover that he did. Yeah, for a Playboy back issue fanzine back in the day that he did a cover for. And there's been a couple sales that just popped out where people are realizing what it is. But there was a signed copy, a raw copy that sold last week for like $6,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we started off with Bondage, right? Bondage was really the first kind of thing, and then we went into Bombshell, into the wars, right? And then we went
Innuendo.
Bad Girl, right? Bad Girl
Innuendo.
to Strong Women. Now we're to Diverse. So we've gone through like 5 chapters of women books. So to be able to have Mercy still going in this world where it is a genre that is very important to our actual history of comics as well.
Amen.
Well, let's not stop there, because Josh is also associated with, I think, one of the best kind of good girl / strong girl comics, which is Hack Slash.
Yes.
With Tim Seeley.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were the first publisher of that book, and then I still help out where we still actually help Tim fulfill the Kickstarters. I take a little credit in nudging him to get those out into the world, which allowed them to do more collections and hardcovers. But I mean, I'll usually find out about like those sometimes like after they've been launched. Like, but I did know about the Zoe Thorogood one before it was coming out, and I was excited about that. There's a good example too of like, you know, you got a young girl doing these books that was able actually doing that. Book's really fun. It's got a lot of like, you know, not even innuendo. It's got a lot of straight up, you know, adult content in there, but it's also just done it's only her style and only the way she can do it, and people are loving it. And then there's he did because it's 20th anniversary. He's doing some stuff for that, and there's some fun stuff coming up too that I'm really excited about that I can't say anything about. But that's a series that just keeps on going and going. And then, but it's funny with Mercy Sparks, I never would let Mercy Sparks go full bad girl. Like, and the attitude was always like, well, that character would kind of roll her eyes at that. Like she would think that was them. But then I was like, well, the angels or whoever she fights, they can be whatever.
Right. Sure.
And that kind of still goes back to some of that, like kind of punk rock, like,
amen,
you know, ethos, I guess.
So one of the, just keeping in the line with that, one of the things I've always loved about Josh, just from the side angle, when I first became a retailer, we had been friends, you know, for quite a long time. But what was it, like 05, 06, you had a magazine imprint you were trying to push, which was way too ahead of its time. Tell us a little about that and like why it didn't catch on.
I'm really good at identifying trends too soon and putting a lot of money into them too soon. Yeah. It was called Lo-Fi Magazine. Actually, I think I got a copy somewhere.
This is why
dude,
we
you've
love
got, if you get a chance and you ever if Josh ever has like an office party, you have to go. His office is just a history of his company, and it's really a dope place.
This is it was called Lo-Fi.
That's it. Yes.
Oh, I have one of those, the rival schools. Yeah.
This is one of those things like so rare it's worthless kind of a thing, probably. But it was music. It was where comics and counterculture collide, or where comics and pop culture collide. And it was music, comics, mostly all indie stuff, and then movie. I think
anime. Well, you had a big anime segment of it.
Yeah, and it was actually it was these guys in Miami that put it together. This guy Greg Narvasa, and I'm trying to think what were some.
Did it come with a disc? Was it with? For some reason I feel like there wasn't.
No, the one with the disc was.
I remember getting. This is gonna sound crazy, but I remember getting like a free Rival Schools disc back in the day that put me onto them. And I remember this magazine. Oh wow, look at that! Yeah,
it's promoting like Ultraviolet and and X-Men 3 and Dave Chappelle.
2000.
But I just remember this was like one of the last gasps of Wizard magazine, and the comic. You had this amazing presentation at the Retailers Summit, and I was totally sold. Not just because it was you. I was like, wow, this is trying to reinvent a wheel that I don't think everyone realized was about to fall off the goddamn vehicle, and they just weren't ready for it. And the second they lost it and you basically said, all right, this isn't going to work, Wizard collapsed, this would have totally filled that gap for Wizard. Yeah.
And we had like, I think it was just a little too street and a little too cool. Like it's from urban street or whether it's punk or hip hop or whatever. So it's a little too cool for school, maybe that way on the underground stuff for the average comic book retailer, you know, and like, I don't think, just like, honestly, when G.I. Joe came out, that old story, it's a whole rabbit hole. But, you know, one way I knew for a fact that comic book was going to do great was the same reason I knew T-shirts were going to do great a couple years before that for this company I worked for. And they were selling in every mall in the country. So it blew my mind when retailers weren't aware of, like, people all wearing these shirts into their stores. It's kind of the same thing. Like, any trend like that, like, you can't... It's a chicken and the egg. The stuff has to get in the store first and has to sell so people can see it selling, and then they want to order more and all that. So because if you're a retailer taking the gamble on it too, I get, you might get bit in the ass too. But that's when I learned you need $200,000 to launch a magazine, not like $25,000.
Right. Sure.
We had it on newsstands and Borders, Barnes and Noble, all that stuff, and then we offered it through the direct market. But I think at the most we moved a few thousand copies at a time, and then most of them came back because it's returnable. So if they're out there, what's funny, it'd probably be a trip to read a lot of the interviews with people who are now either long gone or way more famous.
Yeah.
Right. Sure. What's your?
Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
No, I was just saying, Ashley, what's your relationship with Simon and Schuster right now?
We have an account. That's about the extent of the relationship. Are you doing any distribution through them, or are you doing all yourself in distribution? We have a full-on distribution deal with them. We have not through our comic, not our just our graphic novels, but it's they're available to order. But I'm still, the stuff that I have is just, it's honestly, to be frank, I kind of could care less if we had it or not. I almost wonder, should we even worry about bookstore distribution? But I never don't want to have it. I never don't not want to have it, like, in case we have the book that hits and needs it. Like, we've been on the cusp of like movie announcements and stuff so many times, and the last thing I want to have happen is finally something's greenlit and I've got a book that has like omnibus collections and volumes and everything, and now we're not available to get them ordered in time.
Can I'm going to piggy tail off of what you just said, because we have not asked anybody about this. What is your opinion about these companies that are doing titles just to get that option?
I guess it's an easier way to get the money from whatever investor is chunking money into you, but then, you're beholden to them at the end of the day. It's a gamble. It's a big gamble. And when it works, I guess it works really well, but it's like what is the odds? 1 in 100, and it's also like, if people have big enough pockets where they refuse to stop putting the money into it, then it's kind of like going to the roulette table and you just keep playing until you win enough to get it back. It's kind of seems like what the model is sometimes. I have never been in the like envious enough position to have that to rely on. Sure. But I've definitely played that game. And I mean, we really, honestly, for as long as we were around, we're kind of on the opposite side. Like by now, people don't even know all the deals that we've had. I've had probably, 15 or 20 movie deals, and we've never had anything hit the screen. And there's so many other publishers that had a little bit deeper pockets to invest with, and then they had the one thing hit the screen pretty early into it, and that's what set them up. And they're still riding off that. They just get to the next 10 years and they have another thing hit. And, it's just luck of the draw there too, in some ways. So one thing I'll go back to answer your question more directly. I probably should have actually just moved to Los Angeles in like 2007. And then by sheer presence there, I would have probably had a few more deals, bumped into somebody, and something would have got made. Right. But I, stayed in Chicago.
Well, but then again, Josh, Stan moved out there 20 years before he got the first movie deal.
Yeah.
And that was Stan Lee. I love you, but you're no Stan Lee. It took Stan fucking Lee to get 20 years before he got a movie deal.
Yeah. As long as you don't quit, then you never,
right.
You just keep trying. And,
it's funny because that option news really moves the secondary market on comic books, and people are always talking about, okay, we hear an option for this, and we'll see a spike, and people don't realize how those options work, and most of the time those options just sit. If you're lucky enough and they die out fast enough, and you can sell the option again, and the option comes back, and it probably does that 3 or 4 times. I don't think people realize that when the word option is said, how many few of those get actually made.
Yeah, we've so like if it's the ideal situation is you got to have a business model that supports itself, and then just put out as much as you can, and then work that hustle, and eventually something almost guaranteed will happen, as long as you're pushing it. But if you're only relying on that, that's tough. And that's where, like, honestly, now I think it's a really exciting time. If you're aware of that, because the direct to consumer and the crowdfunding and whatnot and all that stuff does allow a new creator or smaller publishers to suddenly be able to fund that for the first time ever, to not have to worry about, how am I going to afford the next 4 issues of this? Issue 2 is going to sell half of issue 1. Issue 3 is going to sell less than issue 2.
Sure.
And that's always been the way it's been. And now it's like, oh wait, we can rely on, like, we know we're going to have a certain amount of sales every time when that new thing drops. The difference is, though, everyone's getting sucked into just working the collectability variant market and just trying to squeeze as much money as they can out of that. In which I'm not even saying it's a problem. That can be your business model and be fucking great, and you can just have this relationship with your customers and your fans. But if you are distributing through stores and you're doing that crowdfunding, it could sustain you to be able to do that, and then sustain you to keep working the Hollywood angle too. Most of the people really being successful in Kickstarter right now and all those outlets are so new, or they just never, they haven't done that yet. And the people that have experience doing that have come from a little years prior that already had been part of that system and kind of knew how that worked. That said, though, I think entertainment's about to change so much too with AI and all that stuff. I'm kind of waiting. I'm waiting to see if, I've been told that this is not what's happening right now by people that are very well entrenched in that entertainment space. But I'm like, okay, let's say you've got the option to film for, let's say the option to film for $400,000 but they give you whatever, 25 grand, 50 grand up front. And then they have a year and a half before they have to decide they want to renew that again. And then they give you a little bit more money. And then if they finally are going to make it, they have to pay out the big check. By the time they do that, they've also spent money on screenplays, ironically, probably more than they paid the creator of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then, or they've spent money on development.
And the even more ironic thing, which is a big burr in my ass, they never invite the guy who wrote the source material into the Writers Guild after adapting his source material to the screenplay.
Oh yeah, the guild stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a whole other thing. And
but you would think the guy who wrote the comic book that you wrote your screenplay for the comic book movie off of would be just as integral to the Writers Guild as the person who made the adaptation.
Yeah, but here's what I'm wondering is, so let's say that the AI is going to make special effects faster and easier to produce, CGI faster and easy to produce, and a $100 million movie in a couple more years is going to cost $15 million to make.
Yep.
So before, when the studio was up to when the option was going to expire and they had to shit or get off the pot, or did we want to actually give this person $500,000, or do we just want to let him have it back? They had to go, well, am I going to be able to justify explaining to court, above that, yeah, we're doing this, we're going to green light it, and it's going to cost $100 million to make, so we're going to have to make $200 million. All of a sudden, what if they start looking at, wait, it's only going to cost us $15 million to make, we're only going to need to, after promotion, we'll need to gross $50 million. Is that going to make them start to say, you know what, just go ahead and exercise all these options we have? Because if we don't,
it's even easier than that. Instead of calling Roger Corman up and giving him $1 million, you can have an AI studio make you a teaser trailer or some kind of low budget AI thing to secure the rights and keep it till you get that 15
That's
million.
A really good point. Yeah. You can. Yeah. They can use that to claim that they have exercised, that they produce there, because there's contracts like that.
Yeah.
If we've done this thing, It's almost funny. That's like a future cyber dystopian version of the Fantastic Four movie,
Yeah.
the original one, where they made that shitty movie just to keep the
Yeah.
rights.
Right.
But yeah, like but I think that, you know, if I was a studio, I'd look at it like, one, suddenly we don't have to worry about spending as much to make these things. Let's just go ahead and make these people happy, give them all their big checks, and then, you know, we can make these. But also, I would be thinking, if I don't and I let those people have it back, maybe not next year, but in 5 more years, they might not want to sell anything to me because they might be able to make their own films.
Well,
they might be able to make.
Did you get a chance to see that Gen 13 movie that they made and showed it at Wizard World Chicago one time, just to keep the rights for Gen 13?
Wow.
I happened to catch it, that Wizard World, and it was like a packed audience, but they never showed that movie anywhere. It was just to facilitate the contractual obligation. They had to show it one time, but then they got to keep the rights.
Wow,
and that's
crazy.
why we've never had Gen 13 anything.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
look at this. Look at that.
Yeah. I saw it.
That was the cartoon. Yeah. I remember. I don't remember if I ever saw part of that or not.
Yeah, that was at a Wizard. Well,
I
don't know
feel
if
like
one.
I saw part of it.
Yeah, that would have been Wizard World because San Diego's in July. And,
Wizard World Chicago, 1998.
Yep, I was there for that.
That's crazy. Well,
but it's interesting. So it's interesting if you're a creator, if you're a publisher playing that game, it's like
Hollywood will still find a way to fuck you. Is basically what we're saying.
Well, and also, I mean, like they could make devil's advocate. I don't disagree with you there, but like they'll find a way to say like, well, what kind of movie can we make for $100 million?
Right.
With all this, you know, and I think that's what people aren't ready for is none of us can quite wrap our brains around like the abundance of infinite live action programming. Like when you come home and you're like, you know what, I want to watch, you know, MASH reruns, but I want all my friends in it. And then like you just plop in and like, or I want to watch, you know, Friends, but I want this dumb thing to happen instead of whatever was in there, and I want the plot to be about this. And you watch a dumb piece of content for 20 minutes, you entertain yourself.
Well, it's the holodeck. It's literally the holodeck from Star Trek.
Yeah, and then like, but that begs the question, like, but what will the real artists be making then if they have access to that? What kind of mind-blowing stuff's going to come around that we can't even fathom yet? But I think it all goes back to kind of really tie this back to like the cons and C2E2 and everything else. I think the trend seems to continue being, as all this tech expands, live events become more important, and the personal human connection for events becomes more important. It's part of why collectability is rising again. It's part of why like limited edition drops. Like it's why you're seeing like fucking, you know, Stanley mugs be like a craze. It's literally like these suburban moms and high schoolers like tapping into like a sneaker drop culture, because that whatever you got from like entertainment before is kind of being replaced, sort of like finding new ways for people to connect.
This leads me right into one of the things that I want to bring up, and I don't know if you can talk about it or not. Once again, Josh Blaylock is always ahead of the curve. Last C2E2, or was it 2 C2E2s ago? I think it might have been 2. No, it was last one because the schedules were all effed up.
Yeah.
You showed me a comic book you did for a NFT. So it was a physical comic book. Can you talk about that?
Oh, I don't know. Everything might burn up in flames if everyone's eyeballs are exploding. They're like, oh. No, I worked with a lot of those companies. Like I did. I wrote the Bitcoin Comic Handbook in 2018, or actually made it in 2017, published it in 2018, and I got fascinated with that technology back in like 2013, 14. And I was always this weirdo on the periphery, just, you know, going to some of those events and learning about it, and always being shocked at like the interesting, cool, like nice people I'd met, like not a bunch of weirdos, and like, you know, definitely aware I'd see a lot of the douchebaggery online and stuff that started to become part of the culture. But the actual events, you know, I'd go to and people I got to meet are just all smart as shit, really interesting, you know, and great to work with. And so we started to build up clients that way. And one of them I did was, you're talking about Oni Force, which, or
no, the one before that with the monkey.
Oh yeah. So I can show that because these have never been released either.
Getting some cornbread tonight, folks. Are you in the chat? You're getting some cornbread for free tonight.
Well, there was this one series. So I mean, most people know like these. Well, when they think of an NFT, they think of like a specific thing. What they're really thinking of, because it can mean so many things. It's just like it's a piece of access technology. What they're really usually thinking of that they hate is these little collectible characters people sell for stupid money and all that. But what it really is, what a lot of the legitimate projects are, is they're really like loyalty points and fan clubs on steroids. So they give you access to things. They instantly bring you into part of a like-minded community. And again, the crazy thing is this is like the peak of like new technology, and all everyone wants to do is fly to these events and see each other and party together. And it's so much like the zeitgeist of early 90s comic conventions, and like Comic-Cons were
early 90s rave scene in Chicago.
All of it.
Yeah.
Actually, I equate, if you went to NFT NYC a couple years ago, it was like, imagine San Diego at its peak with all the parties.
Yeah.
But the con itself was like 3,000 people.
Josh, I got a friend that is a co-host on another show on the channel, my buddy Vinny, and he goes to all these events. He's going to the Beeple events. He's been to all the Beeple events, and he's bringing up all these crazy things. And when you hear stories about these cons, and you walk into a room into this con, and it's got all these monitors on the walls, and there's these hashtags flying around everywhere, and people are trying to hit them with their phone. If they catch one fast enough, they get like a free NFT collectible that is worth thousands of dollars, and printers from the ceilings dropping one of a kind prints that people are, and that's exactly the way that he explained it, is that it's like these early convention, like the excitement is crazy on these events he talked about the NY and one that you talked about just being crazy.
It's a lot of the vibe is like when comics were going crazy, and when also, but like pre-social media. So like now social media has replaced the ability to network with people, and you're not the weirdo anymore who's the only one in your town that collects that, and it's not like you're waiting desperately to go to a con to find your people. You already have your people. Like, well, this though, in crypto or anything like that, it's still so you can talk to people all you want, and they stare at you like, I don't understand what you're saying. And so this is where people, they find their people. And then it like, take early 90s comics. This is all kind of run its course now, but like, imagine if like when McFarlane and Liefeld and all those guys were signing, and they're all super young, making millions of dollars, and everyone's there trying to collect those books, if they were also throwing the money out at everyone that was signing, like, oh, here, you have some, you have that. That's what the
blockchain, right?
Yeah, and then imagine like the San Diego with the parties, but instead of the celebrities taking over, when the celebrities try to get into the party, they're like, "Do you have one of these things?" Well, then no, fuck off.
Yeah,
like, I've seen celebrities couldn't get into things, and it's the opposite. In comics, it's like, "Oh, yes, sir, Mr. Celebrity, sir, yes, ma'am, go in."
It's like the GameStop people who just owned Wall Street, and they're like, "No, we're not going to sell you this."
Yeah.
And go fuck yourselves.
So let me ask you, Josh.
Little guy.
Do you have a board?
Everyone lost the money. All is gone. So, but here's a testament to it: the money is gone, and like so many of these projects are done. People are still going to those events. It's the community, that the people who are still sticking around. And there's a weird thing. It's almost, to get kind of weird and woo-woo with it, it's almost like that genius of the original Satoshi algorithm. Was sort of made with like these 4-year cycles, and it's like every time it gets in the public consciousness and the prices go crazy and everything. This goes all the way back to like 2009. Like after a few years, it goes crazy, it brings in all these people, and it brings in a weird mix of finance bros, tech bros, and creatives,
Collectors.
and it brings in a lot of douchebags that are all like, kind of like how comics will bring in tourists, and then it crashes, shakes everybody out, but it's left being a little bigger. And those people stay and slug through the next 2 years creating stuff. And then when it takes off again, they have all been through it now, and they're around with projects. And it happens every damn time, and it's happening again right now. So one thing
show this comic book and tell us the story of this comic book.
So Punk's comic was long before me. Like, it was around before me. It was an NFT project with a bunch of like these. They were an homage to what people might have seen, these little pixelated 8-bit looking collectible characters that if you owned it, then you could do whatever you wanted with it. And this company, this guy G Funk and this company Pixel Vault decided they wanted to make. They were the first people to be like, well, let's tell real comic stories with these guys. And they hired Chris Wall, who's this amazing Australian artist. He's worked on Tank Girl, and I think he worked on a lot of 2000 AD stuff like that. They did one before me, but the writer wasn't really a comic writer, and it was all done like it was a crazy mess. And then we need a writer, and long story short, I ended up being that guy. So we ended up, the first one I do, they say,
oh wow.
And actually, this is also colored by Greg and Fake, who do a lot of stuff for us, and they do that book Santos Sisters. Chris colored the cover himself, but
I love that Santos Sisters comic book. By the way, it's a great comic book.
They're just sort of like guns for hire. They're not really passionately involved or anything, so don't blame them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they Chris is just a beast, and he's also an incredible photorealistic level of painter. But it's funny. They told me when I got hired, we need to continue the last story and basically fix the kind of mess that was. We have this crossover. We did a contest with all these people that own these Bored Ape things. There's 8 of them. They're individual licensees. We need to bring their characters in for cameos. We also are doing a collaboration with Adidas. And also we need to end it so it sets the stage for our superhero thing to come in the next issue. And I was like, all right, challenge accepted. And I had 26 pages to do it in. So this is one of the stories I'm the most proud of ever pulling off, because it fucking works. It actually flows okay. I treated it like the Muppet Show. Kermit's just there, just trying to keep wrangle on thing. But the first one's out there, and it's been sent off to the people. Basically, if you owned the original digital collectible, then you could claim one of these for free for issue 1. And they sent them these really nice slab or packaged books with a plastic frame on it and stuff. But this one was never even released yet, because they're going to release all 6 at the same time. And I don't know when the hell that's going to happen. I've 3's drawn, 4's drawn. I wrote 5 and 6. He's halfway through drawn 5, but they keep getting sidetracked by stuff. And anyway, but this was fun. They did do the Adidas collab. There's all kinds of clothing that they made, but I actually got to have comics that I did, my little.
Wow.
I mean, that's just my dialogue in there, but it's our whole collaboration. That's Chris Wall's art. It's a collaboration between this guy G Money, who was some brand influencer guy, the Apes, the Punks comic itself, and Adidas. And now they also did some digital cool stuff that I got to see in one of their live activations that I helped create. So that's just cool opportunities that happened because I didn't say,
because Josh Blaylock is ahead of everybody. Just fucking admit it.
I won't argue.
Yeah.
But
that's cool,
I do think there's a lot. I think what was so interesting about that though was I was constantly back and forth between I'm seeing all this amazing stuff happen over there, and I go over the comic book world and everyone hated it. So I am not the evangelist to convince you of anything. I'm not that guy. I'm just always sorry you don't get it or disagree. I'll see you in 3 years. And if I'm right,
Right.
But Josh,
You
I mean,
know.
this is the fundamental thing that we talk about on this show, the industry of comics show. Sometimes the comic industry is so ass backward they couldn't see the money that they need to survive if it smacked them in the face. And you're kind of living proof of that. You're kind of living proof of that.
my thing was I felt kind of bad for like people that could have been minting their original art on and selling it for a shit ton of money, but they had a problem with it, and it's like, okay, well, but I would also see stuff in that NFT world where like I would see a lot of creativity where people were like they were basically thought they had invented this something from scratch, or they were doing some new amazing thing, and I'd just be thinking like, oh, we did this in comics like 15, 20 years ago.
Sure.
Or this is like literally now I still tell people like, no, people don't need you to sell them a motion comic. Like, we've been through this, just learn from our mistakes. But there's so much both of those communities could learn from each other, because because it all is about fandom and community and access to exclusive things. It's totally like collectibles, and it will come. Whether it'll eventually happen. You're going to be going to a Comic-Con one day, and whatever app they have, it'll be like, hey, if you do these things, you'll just be rewarded, and you'll start getting rewarded. You'll like barely even do anything, but then like a year later, someone's going to want to buy something from you because you did something on the app the year before, and you'll be like, what do you want this? Okay, you can sell it to them, and they want it because it gives them access to something, and
I always thought that was the coolest part about the NFT world with the CryptoPunks, or some of the things, is those little extras that you're talking about that could get you into, if you have this NFT, you get a lifetime pass to come to this club whenever we have the events. You can come in and get in free anytime you want, or I forget what they call those. There's a name for it in the NFT world, but that to me is the coolest part.
Yeah, like I'm working with a company now that's called Black Chip Inc. That's announced. They have a property called Wicked Craniums, these little skeleton dudes, but they've developed a platform they've announced called TrueStub, and what they're going to be doing, they've announced these things called Wicked Wristbands. Wicked Wristbands are going to give you access to events that are like just like a wristband, and there's going to be something that happens like tied to that's going to really reward you for having gone to events. And they're kind of like, they're touting like the rebirth of the ticket stub. That's kind of like because ticket stubs used to mean so much, and that's sort of like what they're going for. And that's the kind of stuff that's interesting to me, that's gonna, I think, be how this stuff plays out. But if you really want to melt everyone's brains, the number one thing that comic book fandom and creators hate, which there's a lot of right to, is all the stuff happening with AI art. I think it's irrational to refuse to learn about it or look at it, but there's plenty of valid reasons that weren't valid about NFTs to hate on AI art. But NFTs, the technology of that non-fungible little, protocol, is going to be I'm making a prediction. I could be wrong, because this is one of the more out there ones. I think that's going to be the thing that saves us from AI art. The only way you're going to be able to validate that this is a real thing you're looking at, or this is a real call from your grandma on the video phone, is going to be an NFT protocol that lets you know it's legit. And and you won't even know it's there. It'll be the thing that's helping pop up if something like.
Well, and it could be the same for artists that get accused of AI. It's like, all right, here's my preliminary. Here's my little circles on the page. That's
it's like an insurance company or something type deal.
Here's my rough sketch. I'm flushing that out, NFT 2. And then on the blockchain is every step that you made, even if you do it digitally on a pad. Every step is going to be in the blockchain so that you can prove, no, I did not use AI art. This is every step that along the blockchain that got saved. And then here's the final product.
Yeah.
There's something like that'll happen, and like it'll be it's there's going to be so much stuff out there. You're just going to have to decide when you want to actually activate it, and there'll probably be people looking back on like who did legitimately create something from scratch, and they get famous later, and they're like, man, I wish I would have validated all that stuff back then. There's nothing I can do about it now. It'll be problems like that we can't even think of right now that we wish we would have solved that don't exist yet.
Yeah, the best comparison that we always use coming from corporate is a rotary phone and whatever modern phone you have now, and trying to coach everything in between. We didn't go from this rotary phone to a Galaxy 24 Plus. We went through all these little steps in between. The 100-pound phone, right? And then you kind of gradually go that direction. So yeah, it works in everything.
Yeah,
I think it's really.
We have a buddy on the channel. He goes by Television. You might have heard of him. He did a comic called Musk versus Zuck and Little Bitcoin that they did.
Never saw that.
Yeah, yeah. And the Musk versus Zuck stuff is really funny. So like this is they did a comic, and they are working really closely with the blockchain, some blockchain people, and trying to do work into that type of stuff. So I'll shoot Television a message and say, hey man, you gotta reach out to Josh Blaylock and pick his brain and see if there's anything you guys can work on, because it's coming.
You know why this stuff's a good exercise to still like follow and be a part of, because it really makes you go back to like the real basic principles of like what we do, and it forces you to create a vocabulary to be able to explain what the hell you're even talking about, because I have that problem.
I call it cultural literacy.
Yeah, and comics, and I learned this through like, because I had to explain to so many NFT people why no one's going to give a shit about certain things they were doing. And it's like, look, comics are about either reading or the collectability. And there's two different, and it has a lot of overlap.
Yes.
Some people are there for the story, some people are there for the art, some people are there for collectability, some people are there to read or just appreciate art. And it's everything mixed up. And it's like, and gets into like at Comic-Cons, people are there for different things. And I'll like be looking at what someone's trying to do, and they're trying to make a whole story. And I'm like, look, this is all about collectability. Like, nobody gives a shit that if you're embargoing your comic to let people read it, like you're making them buy some digital asset before they can have access to read your comic, you're in a highly privileged position, and that's only working right now because people want it so bad, and they're not really looking at that and reading it. Because in reality, you want to give that shit away for free. You just go webcomic and let as many eyeballs on it as possible, and that'll make them want to go buy it. So it's like I see a lot of delusion there where people think they're reaching the mainstream somehow because they're developing an IP and they're making this comic, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, no one's even reading this thing. Yeah, but then I'll find out that they made this Pixel Vault is like produces some really cool stuff, and it's funny. Not this one, but the one before it. People don't know. You could say that's the highest grossing independent comic book of all time. Beating out. Like, you could potentially say it's the highest. You could definitely say that. You could say it's the highest grossing single issue of any comic of all time. Maybe. I'm not sure what the numbers are on Jim Lee, X-Men.
Number one.
Like, because they minted out, it was something like $8 million worth.
Yeah.
But it was for, thousands of books. It wasn't hundreds of thousands or millions.
Yeah, all 5 copies, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's worth noting, like, that's,
there's money out there.
Interesting.
We have
you.
Money.
There's a couple things that I wanted to talk to you about, because I know that the one I talked to you the first thing on Thursday about this. The AOC Carla Cohen book, which I happen to be at ground zero for, and then they redid it this year. Can you give us some background on that book and like just basically the stuff we talked about on Thursday?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's like this really plays into the the collector craze of not just publishers selling collectible books, but like how audiences are following retailers and clubs basically that make collectible things. Like, I wouldn't have done that thing. Like, I don't know. I don't think I would have. Well, I wouldn't have done that one because it's already been done. But like, I wouldn't make another one of those covers because I already got plenty in print. Like, I don't think I could sell it. But they wanted to reproduce that in foil as like they just licensed it. So
Well, first of all, tell them the
produced
backstory that you released this and you started getting the hits and all the controversy.
It was the biggest book in
release.
It was the biggest book in the planets on the secondary market when that first book came out. I mean, it was all the number one spots everywhere.
So we announced that book. It was an anthology, a bunch of different artists and writers on it. So then it was probably the most requested I'd ever had for retailer covers, which in the age of 75 copies of one Thundercats, it doesn't sound like much, but I think we had like 12 retailer variants or something. Dennis was one of them. And then
you got
this
to
one
pull
was
mine up too, Brian, when you have a second.
Yeah.
Send some people to eBay, please.
I don't care.
Can't hurt. Yeah, this was Collector Cave. They had one of the smallest orders. I think they might even come in towards the end to do 250 copies. And they provided the art. First, it was going to be Supergirl, but it's way too. This is my memory from like 5 years ago. They remember Supergirl came in and it was way too like risque for me, and I was like, we can't. This book's not like that. This isn't that kind of a game angle we're going for, and made them change that. And they had done a Wonder Woman option first, kind of a homage, kind of those kind of vibes, and then they wanted to do something that kind of like a Supergirl homage parody, and somehow they ended up. I think it's because I was like, Supergirl can't be like this homage. I'm being very careful that it wasn't
IP,
actually her.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this homage, it's too scantily clad or whatever. So they wanted to do this version, and I actually said this looks too much. At the time, it looked too similar. So I had to take a bunch of stuff out, like, and make sure it's clearly like this American superhero parody. Like, you might, like, this character could walk in on The Boys or something, or The Tick or on Invincible, but everyone kind of gets the homage. And then we did it, 250 copies, forget about it. I'm traveling around, come home, saw this like cease and desist letter and was like, well, like desisted, well, I don't even have them, and then didn't even think about it really. And then later there was like Bleeding Cool picked it up and talked about it, and then it was, so I can't remember the order of events because it was all pretty fast. I think it started on the secondary market.
You and I are drinking in Las Vegas at 2 a.m. at the casino.
It's a preface. This got global press. So like I was on like Yahoo Finance. I flew to New York. I did a thing for NBC. I did like, I don't know, so many interviews on, whether like on national TV, just from my office. And then, but it pretty much had died down. Like it was on its way out. Like we'd done a couple of books, and I knew that was like the global phenomenon of the press was about done. And of all things, and it's totally coincidental. I was sitting with Dennis at Retailer Summit in Las Vegas at like 1:30 in the morning, and my phone's notifications are going off on like the web store for this totally different cover that me and Tim Seeley drew, where it looks like a Spartan, like we call it the Washington Warrior variant. She looks like a female Spartan warrior, which they were all calling I had found out Fox News had decided to take this and pick up the Bleeding Cool story. Like this major national station picks up like, our fellow like mutual nerd blog and blows it up into a story, which meant all of those local news affiliates like 6 o'clock morning news that the Murdoch Network owns, they all aired it, and they're all showing the wrong cover, saying that that this was a controversy or something, and it just, people started collecting that one, and it started going nuts, and then it got this whole news cycle of people talking about it. So then people were going after all the covers again.
Wow.
So it was like, well, thanks, Fox.
All of them except for mine, which I think was probably the lowest selling one, but I love the
I
concept.
love that cover. That cover is great.
Can you pull it up?
Fucking
Did
love
you
it.
find it, Brian?
Yeah, one sec here. That's funny, man.
I want to say we made 250 as well, and I don't even remember how many we made. But I think we sold less than 100 copies of it, and I love the concept of it. No, it's the Mad Max cover.
Hold on, let me go find it. One sec.
That's how rare it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think
Yeah.
I'm the only one selling it on eBay because
But,
nobody bought it.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, that book went nuts. Everybody was going crazy for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, people were selling it on eBay for like $2,000 and stuff, and so it was interesting. So when we did 10 years prior to that, we did Barack the Barbarian, and it also, which Dennis also got a variant of that one. We did Barack the Barbarian, then we did Red Sarah, Sarah Palin parody, and then they that got global press. Like one day, open up the old paper newspaper, turn the page, second page, Barack the Barbarian story, and that went global press, but there was no social media at the time. So even Saturday Night Live did a joke about it on their Weekend Update at the time, and it didn't. But so it was nothing like that's the only other political thing we'd done, and then we did this one, and it went crazy. So
Smart.
Yeah, so who was the artist on this one, Josh?
Olivia Poliez.
Okay. She nailed it. She was exactly what I described to her, because I wanted Mad Max, I wanted her as Furioso, I wanted Mad Bernie, and I wanted Trump as Immortus Rex. And I wanted all of since they were all bald, I wanted Jeff Bezos and the Amazon delivery people chasing her.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you can't see that you got to zoom in. Can you zoom in on it? Because that part was great.
Yeah,
I
this was
forgot
all
about
my
that.
idea from start to finish, and she nailed it.
Honestly, maybe the cover should have just been. Maybe we just need to find an excuse to make a Jeff Bezos Amazon.
Yeah, I know,
Every
I know.
retailer can identify with it.
And I actually put it on Amazon too, so these exist. You can buy these over on my Amazon store as well.
There you go. There you go. So they decided to do a foil variant for this year?
Yeah, they hit me up and said we want to do this. We'd like to do one of these, do it as a foil. I was like, really? Like we already made it, but I was like, okay. I licensed it. They got the files and they reproduced it. So there's more of those than there are of
The original.
So
yeah, the original
maybe
had
they're
20
holding on to a stash. Maybe the goal is really I doubt that they. I mean, they're probably doing well with it, but maybe the real goal is to make the.
Well, you know what was the other
previous
cool
ones a lot
thing?
more.
You know what was another really cool thing about this? This was a lot of people's first view of Carla Cohen.
And see, and I had never heard of her before, so I think it really, I found out her, like, who is this painter? Like, she's awesome. It's crazy too, man. She paints like almost the same size as the original, just tiny. And like, usually, that detail you would think it was for sure like a bigger painting.
Yeah,
and
we have conversations where we try to decide like who's the better artist at this point. Is it Lucillo Perillo or is it Carla Cohen? You know what I mean? Because they're both just amazing artists at this point, and Carla has become one of the darlings of the industry. Yeah. I mean, she is just killing it, and all over doing cons all over the country now. She's not from here, so it's cool to see these people coming over here and doing all these cons, and man, she is just blown up. And
I mean, let's segue into that one. Josh has discovered some of what I think are the most prolific cover artists in the industry: Jenny Frison, Mike Norton, Tim Seeley. Go through the list, Josh. I mean, you're better at it than I am.
we had a lot of people like I'd say Tim. I think Tim is the one that met Jenny and brought her in to do Hack Slash. I'm gonna show you something because we set up all these books. I think it's just cool to see the the old GI Joe covers. Some of the people who at the time were so I made this one little display a while ago. It's just this is stuff I personally wrote, or was involved in creating. But let's see, Francis Maniple.
Yep.
Well, I mean, everyone knows J. Scott Campbell did a bunch. Oh, there's the old Minotaur I was telling you about.
Look at that.
You don't need to see any more of that.
We're gonna find one of those, my friend.
But the Joe Benitez.
Oh yeah, the Joe Benitez Firefly cover, Josh, is one of my all-time favorite covers. That one right there. Yep.
And then Mike Zeck, that was. I mean, he's not exactly someone we broke.
Yeah,
that was an honor to have him.
You got Capullo on the core stuff. Look at that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm
right
under. I'm hard.
Right above the Ratiskull. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Look at that.
Capullo. This is one of my favorite covers ever. Is Tim Seeley's number 2.
I love that.
Here's the Michael Turner cover that came right after the other Reiniger one. How dumb am I that I the only guy in the world that hired Michael Turner, paid his rate, and didn't have him do a sexy chick. Michael Avon Obing.
Oh yeah, shout out to Michael Avon. I have a great story about Michael Avon Emming, man. A great story.
Oh yeah.
He was, and you're gonna like this. He was. So I'm a huge Art Bell fan, Coast to Coast AM, and the famous Area 51 caller from Coast to Coast AM was Mike and his friends.
Really?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
The ones that we're talking about, like Repo Man and shit.
Yeah,
like
they
that?
know where I am. They're crying on the phone. They know where I am. They're gonna come and get me, and then the phone dies.
That's
and then,
Michael.
Yeah, and his buddy when they were just young,
Kids.
and they're kids. Yep.
I listened to that.
I'm gonna look that up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit down in a sec here, but this is the one I was just showing was Randy Green, bunch of Scotty Young, bunch of early Scotty Young stuff. These talk about so rare that's like worthless. People don't know Scotty Young did really rare variants of this book called Defects we did that didn't pan out, but Marv Wolfman co-wrote it. I created the concept and developed it with Marv. Marv wrote them. Stefano Caselli drew the interiors of the book. Wow. Scotty did all these covers for us. This is Stefano Caselli. I was looking for Mark Brooks. We had a lot of old Mark Brooks stuff too. But here's Mark Brooks on this book, Misplaced.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, there's a ton of artists like that it's like, man, a lot of people started.
Oh, hey, show that.
Early on
What's
there.
that one book with the robot hand that I always talk about, but I can never remember the name of? It actually made the top 10 list a couple times, Brian.
Oh yeah.
Encoded.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah, we're huge fans of Devil's Due, man. It's really great to have you on here and do this. We're going to figure out a way to bug you even more often now that we know you're tight with Dennis, and try to get you on the industry show more often. And it was great to have you on tonight and talk about all this. And it's a privilege to have you on here, brother.
Yeah, thank you. There's some fun stuff coming up that I can't talk about yet that maybe it'll work out, that we can be good timing for.
Let's do it.
I'll have been gone long enough that people won't be sick of me.
Well, I want to remind everybody to make sure we're going to put all your, of course, social media stuff and information in the description below. Make sure that they follow you on all those if they're not already following you there, which a lot of our fans probably are, because of reasons like this, ladies and gentlemen. You never know what you're going to see. So
that was a fun show. That's Codename Iowa in Des Moines, ran by this guy Brian Sauer, and the whole theme was Dreadnoks. This year was all Dreadnoks.
Look at that! The Zartan Swamp Skier.
Oh,
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I've got a Cold Slither CD.
Oh
I've
my
got
God.
actually I got this shirt from them. This Snake Eyes actions,
Oh,
not words. And like replica of a real grape soda and Yojo Cola.
that's great, man.
If you want to go and just unabashedly be a dweeb super nerd for GI Joe, man, that's the place.
Well, thank you, man. We're gonna let you go. We're gonna get you out of here a little early, so we don't keep you all night. But what is something that we always ask Dennis, every person that we have on the show?
What is, aside from a place that you can pick up comic books, what is a comic book store, and what was your first comic book that you remember holding in your hand?
Comic book store would be like another version of sort of like a barber shop is for community. Like it's where you went to connect, and I don't know that that's what comic shops still are. They have to be for some people, but that's what it used to be, the only place like that. And that's what was so special about it. That's why you would go to a place if it looked like a smelly dungeon, because you could still connect, So, and I think in a huge part they still are that way, but it was. And then a comic I remember holding in my hand was probably it was Conan. Probably, 'cause my dad collected one comic that he had delivered to the house, and it was Conan.
That's dope.
First comic I remember getting and wanting to buy was I think it was GI Joe 61 off the rack at 7-Eleven.
Oh yeah, that's where I got my first comic,
Strikes
GI Joe.
again. 7-Eleven strikes again.
Yep, 7-Eleven. Yep. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We've answered a lot of good questions tonight. Josh Blaylock, thank you for coming on with us, man. And we're definitely going to reach out to you to get you on here more.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, man. Adios. Good stuff, man. You can't beat that, right? I mean, especially being GI Joe fans, and I'm a huge GI Joe fan, but I'm also a huge Devil's Due fan. A lot of those books that he was showing on his shelf, I've got in my long boxes, just chilling. Because I pick them up every chance I have. You got to find those things. So, but
well, like I said, and I'm beating a dead horse with this. What I love about Josh is I find out whatever Josh is working on, I find out what this next thing is going to be. You find out who the next hot artist is going to be. And he always seems to be just 3 steps ahead, and the industry isn't ready for it. And then he moves on to something else because he's always so, ahead of it. He can't sit around and wait for us to catch up to him, the comic industry.
Yeah.
And, Jesse, you're muted.
He muted the wrong thing. I got you.
Yeah.
You're good now.
Okay.
What were you going to say?
No, the big thing I was going to say is there's a common thread to successful people in the comic book industry right now, and it goes all back to the decade we don't like talking about as retailers, but the 90s has fostered all the top companies that there is today is all from the 90s.
Yeah. Amen.
Well, and so it's just a matter of I almost am ashamed to be a comic retailer because I feel comic retailing has let Josh down with the things that he's done and the things where the places he wanted to take us. Our industry wasn't ready to follow a visionary like him. Yeah. And luckily for me, I honestly am such a Josh Blaylock slappy from before becoming a retailer. And then after, he would be like, hey, Dennis, I'm going to do a sign, hey, let's do a signing at my store. Okay, cool. I'll come out. And then he'd be like, hey, here's this book, Mercy Sparks, that I've done. And I'm like, oh, cool. Give me 100 of them. And then it's like, oh, Mercy Sparks just got optioned. Oh, cool. I'm glad I had you sign like 20 of these for me, and he's like, hey, did you know this hack / My First Maniac number 1 second printing is like $1,000 book, and I'm like, oh shit, I still have 5 of those that I only bought because I support Tim Seeley because he did Hack Slash with you, and it's just one of these things that luckily for me, I've always known Josh is ahead of the curve, so I always support him on whatever he's doing. I've got those Def X. I probably got a short box of Def X, Scotty Young's.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of if you spot people like Josh in this industry and you support them because they're ahead of the curve, you're always going to do good in this industry.
Well, let's we went a little long than we were supposed to, but how can you not when you got Josh on? It's just it was what it is. So I want to get into C2E2. Let's do a review of C2E2 from you, Dennis, because you were there, and there were some interesting things to talk about. And first and foremost, I think that for the people who were able to set up and sell comics there and sell whatever they were selling, merchandise, it was a hit, right? For the retailers and the people that were selling products.
And we're kind of wrapping this into kind of an end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, Q2 of the industry. And we're an economy that we're in is fairly, inflation is high, et cetera. There's a lot of different ways to look at an event like C2E2. MegaCon is the first big event of the year. C2E2 is, in my opinion, kind of that second big one, even though Emerald City has, the West Coast on lock. It was a monster. We were in aisle. They originally put us in aisle 100. They moved us over to aisle 300. So we had a straight shot at the door. And when that door opened at 10 a.m., which, by the way, they moved the start time back an hour from the traditional C2E2 11 o'clock start time. It started at 10 on every day. But they moved it from a 4-day to a 3-day. That boundless energy of all the fans coming in at 10 a.m. was like a herd of elephants just storming the castle. And they have the autograph act area in the back, so people wanted to get in line to meet their favorite people. They had the Rick and Morty cast. They had, I think I sent you a picture.
They had Mads
they had two of
Mikkelsen
the
there.
actors from Ted Lasso.
Yeah, they had Mads Mikkelsen and the other guy from Hannibal were there, which is weird to see Mads Mikkelsen there, right?
I know. So, there was a mad dash to get in line for those guys. There's a mad dash for Artist Alley because there were so many drops and so many big names that had huge lines throughout the weekend. But everybody was enthusiastic, and at a certain point, like I said, we were selling Pokemon, so I basically just kind of popped out the back of the booth and let the kids do it because I don't know a Pokemon from Yu-Gi-Oh! Too much except for Charizard and Pikachu. They were just throwing money at the kids, and I mean there was just a rabid frenzy of buying. And just I as a side note, we have these binders in my store. And my son and my employee Maggie, who's the Pokemon master at our store, they went through the binder and they're like, "Oh, we're going to price all of these down. We're going to go look all these cards up and price them down because we think." I go, "No. You're not doing the same work twice to lose me money. You're not going to, you've already priced them. Put them in a box. If you think they've gone down, put them in a box off to the side. We'll just take them to a show and blow them out." We stocked all of those cards as, we were going to do a deal on them. We didn't have time to make the deal, and people just kept buying them at the price that they, had the old price that they wanted to mark down. So once again, the old man was right about something. But it was a feeding frenzy, and it lasted. There were little lulls here or there, just time to restock, and then boom, another just rush would come in. Cosplay at a high level. I didn't see a lot of masks. I saw I would say probably a 1 or 2% of the attendees were wearing masks. So post-COVID, that's kind of a good sign to see. It was like I said, it was just like pre-COVID C2E2. I think it's to me it's the third best show of the year, and what Josh was saying, depending on what you're there for. So, just take my daughter for instance. She got to go to her first San Diego last year. We run into Todd McFarlane like the first 5 minutes of the show. We run into all of the people that, she's heard the name but never met. She runs into all of Dad's old friends, etc. You actually got to meet her like right off the get, Brian, because we were over at Tucci's booth and you were over at Polito's booth, and that's where we bumped into you guys.
Yep.
And that was literally right after we saw Todd McFarlane. So she got to do her first San Diego. She did her first New York in October prior to that. And then now we do C2E2 every year as a family. She thinks C2E2 is the best out of the three.
Wow.
Because New York is so locked in New York. You have to do so much to go there. And then it's so busy and it's so congested, but nobody treats it like it's San Diego. So there's not a lot of fanfare, for events and et cetera. San Diego is the opposite. It's got all the events, but you can't do any of them because you got to run from one side of the thing to the other just to get one event out of the way. And then she waited in line because, it's a rite of passage. She wanted to meet Shinzu Ito, whatever that Japanese manga artist is. She waited in the line every morning and didn't get a ticket to meet him.
Oh.
So, so she learned that lesson the hard way that, you know what? You can go get in line at 6 a.m. and when they say the line starts at 6 a.m., there will be people who are there will be 500 people who camped out at 2 a.m. to be first in line at 6 a.m. And when you get to the end of the line, all those people are going to get all the tickets prior to you, and you are going to miss out on the one thing that you wanted to see at the event.
That's one thing I won't do is when I go to San Diego now, I'm not going to stand in lines. I'm just not going to do it. It's not worth it to me.
It's not because you're going to miss 5 things while you're waiting in that line. It's not worth it. So she learned the hard way on that because she really wanted to do it, and she got, but then she loves Monster High, so she went through San Diego's Monster High display. It was the 10th anniversary or whatever the thing was that they were doing there. And it was like, well, that wasn't worth it for her. And so, but then C2E2 has a whole different level. But for her, that level is better than New York and San Diego.
Yeah.
And that says something. And that says something to me that, well, I don't have to spend $10,000 taking all 3 of us to San Diego next year.
Yeah.
I don't have to spend $5,000 take us all to New York Comic-Con again. I could spend $2,000 or $3,000 and take us all to C2E2 and we have a blast.
Yeah. Well, we not only noticed that a lot of the people at the con were making money, Jesse, a lot of the people that are doing eBay Live made a ton of money this weekend. Shout out to Sean and Drew and Rups. I know that they were doing things. I saw Maria Wolf.
Yeah, pretty
on
much
with
everybody
Drew,
was on
Frizen.
Doing eBay Live, right? I think that what we've now noticed is if you're live streaming, you're paying on a convention every day. That's just not the weekend, right? And so when you do these conventions, you got to go that one. What is different from your Wednesday show to a show at C2E2, and how do you present that? So naturally it's your guests. And so what we were seeing, the trend, which is crazy, right? You got 30 sellers at C2E2, all selling the same exclusive, all selling out no matter what time the show is. So not only is C2E2 in Dennis's mind one of the top 3, maybe the number 1 for his family, it's also becoming the number 1 show to buy from across the nation, across the world, to orphan customers. You got to figure, if you live in California and you want to go to C2E2 to get the Maria Wolf exclusive, you're going to spend about $4,000 to do that, to stand in line to get that, or you can buy it for $40 from Chris Rep online.
Or not get it after
Or not
doing
get
all
it.
that.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I think what we're seeing is this connection of conventions across the nation, whether it be C2E2 New York, San Diego, any con, really, technically any con, and the connection that we now have with the fans, and the notion that we're playing with a large group of customers. So, everybody, it's kind of funny. The notion was everybody's got C2E2 except for this one guy in this little studio in Florida who's selling 1,200 books in 3 days that has nothing to do with C2E2. So the whole notion is that
and
comics
speaking
are
of
selling.
Speaking of nothing to do with C2E2, I mean, C2E2 has become an industry along itself. If you don't know
Sure.
what this is a Wild Bill soda mug. Wild Bill sets up at a lot of the shows,
Root
especially
beer,
C2E2.
sarsaparilla.
You buy this mug, and I bought this one in 2018, and you pay to get a little sticker on it,
Right.
and you can go and get a free refill all weekend long. And then I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, it might have been pre-COVID, actually, even, the fudge people started showing up. And I mean, this is like Renaissance fair level stuff here.
Right.
And so here's the Fudgy Wudgy maple walnut fudge. They had 5 different fudge places on the floor of C2E2 selling, Fudgy Wudgy orange bourbon pecans.
Sure.
And chocolate covered cherries. The show, as comics or this or that or the other thing starts gravitating away, there is so much people the middlemen of this industry that want to get in and get a piece of the fan action, by selling their mugs and selling their fudge. And yeah, I bought it, but where else are you going to get, soda and fudge?
Yeah, exactly. and so I think what we gravitate to is, and I can go through the last, I've been going to San Diego Con. This is my 39th year going to San Diego Con. I mean, which is crazy to think, right? But I always went with someone that could care less about comic books. So that second ticket went to the person who's buying the mugs, who's like, oh, check this out. I just bought candy. And I'm like, how much did you spend for it? $10. I'm like, that's a Jenny Friesen cover. What are you talking about, right? And so conventions are supposed to be just like that. It's like carnivals. You don't have to go on the ride, right, to enjoy a carnival. You can watch people on the ride. And there's a lot of people I know that like to people watch at conventions.
Yeah.
It's a very, very interesting thing. The notion is that conventions are selling tickets. They're bringing in fans. We're able to entwine them around the world with people that can't make it. And guess what? Next week is next con up.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, those are all the good things. And the con was an overall success. A good con, a great con.
Yes.
There were a couple of things that made you go, what the fuck is going on here? And that's always going to happen, I think, at any con, right? You can't have everything be great.
It's expectations, right?
Yes. And of course, the biggest story that I could think of going into the con was the John Malin, Shane Davis fiasco, where they were supposed to get their table 3-4 weeks before the con, after they were told everything was good. They get everything pulled back from them, and they had one of the biggest booths right as you walk into the con. Okay, it was one of the best places, and they basically got told, no, you're not allowed to come here because you harass people on the internet. Well, this is after they all had their hotel rooms and everything. And so they said, well, we're going to go. I mean, we can't, we're going to lose all our money on hotel rooms. We've got, everything ready. We got all these people going to meet us. And this is what happened, ladies and gentlemen. John Malin decides to go walk the con floor. And
well, let's just say he purchased a badge like anybody else walking into the show.
Yep. And this is what happens. He decides to walk up and down the aisles. He gets to do that for about 15 minutes, and this happens.
I'm going to take a walk. I'm just going to keep walking. Where are you? Hey, how's it going?
I'll play that again for you guys.
if you didn't hear what the guy says, he goes, "We're going to take a walk. Just keep walking."
Now, by the way, you guys, this is a industry professional. This is a long time. This is an industry professional. This is a person
Work
that
for
makes
Marvel, work for Image,
Drew
publishes
Cable.
a book once a year.
Yep. And he wants to sell his comics, right? That's what he wants to do at this con. And now he can't do it. And this is a distinguished industry professional that's walking around the con that security is going to walk up to and say, "Hey, we need to talk to you, or we need to get you out of here." So let's replay this.
Your excuse.
Another row. I'm gonna take a walk. We're just gonna keep walking. Who are you? Hey, how's it going? What's her name?
He was so smart to keep filming.
Look, I got the whole crew here.
Look at how many people there were that were walking, that the security sent to go grab him.
What's her name?
There's 3 security guards, or 4, 3 or
Four.
4. I can't remember.
4.
4.
Yeah, he's probably got someone in front of him too. I'm sure he has 2. Now, just so you know, running a con for as long as I did, this is standard practice, right? I'm not talking about kicking him out. This is standard practice, how you actually kick someone out. You don't send one person and hope that they walk out. You then come with as much security guards as you can. They probably have 2 or 3 people in front clearing the way.
Clearing the way.
Yeah, exactly. So you're probably looking at 6 people doing this.
And they were actually very...
This will become very important with the next video we show.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they were very good to him. They were professional. And you'll see how this plays out. We'll watch this. Here we go.
Very Patrick Swayze Roadhouse.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Be nice until it's not time to be nice.
Yep. Here we go.
Did Christina send you? Don't touch my phone. Hey, I'm walking out. If you're gonna threaten me, then let's just do it. Oh, don't take it as a threat? Okay. I didn't say anything. I didn't say a word yet. Okay. All right. No, I'm doing great, man. Good. How are you doing? We're gonna walk outside then. Right, I heard you. All right. Here we go, guys. I guess I am more important than I thought. Isn't that weird?
Now, I'm going to give you guys some backstory that Malin or nobody else has given you once they get over to the side over here.
Okay.
So see the V there?
Yeah.
That's the edge of Artist Alley. This
Okay.
is the main row of the end of Artist Alley. If you look back, as Blaylock said, there's 400 comic artists, all by alphabet, up the row towards the autograph area to the very back. It would be your camera right now. So to the right of the V, all the way past A is where the actors are signing. So they're taking him out through the middle of the show towards where the food court is and where these exit doors are. And I'll get to that when you get to that spot.
Guess I am more important than I thought. It's a good show, though. Looks good. I like what you guys do with the floor space, the spacing.
Okay, so pause right here. This little area right here is it's behind the tattoo expo, because there's about 10 tattoo artists that set up every year. And this is the rear exit doors. This is what I used to call Dennis's private smoking area, because there's emergency exit doors with no security on them that when you push it, the alarm doesn't go off. So you could put your lighter in there. You could go out back and smoke. But what you don't know, what Malin doesn't even know at this point, is it is a no man's land of this convention. It is a giant concrete deck that leads to the catacombs of the parking structure that they don't even use for C2E2.
Wow.
So if they had pushed him back there, there's no way to get in anywhere in the corridor, the convention center, or anything. He would be forced to walk down the stairs into an empty parking structure where anything could be waiting for him. And I mean, I'm just talking homeless transients, people
That
doing
don't like
illicit drugs,
Yeah.
whatever.
People
It would
waiting
take
for him.
Yeah, but it would take him 15 to 20 minutes just to navigate himself out if he knew what was back there.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. They're about to push him out these doors.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're going to the exit here, guys. You guys know why you're escorting me out?
Told that you violated the code of conduct is what he was told, right? Watch what he says. This is very interesting, what he says.
Right. But I didn't violate any code of conduct. I'm a conservative. Yeah, so my conservative beliefs is why I violated. So I'm a Trump supporter.
Okay.
Yeah. So that I just, so you guys know what's going on. Right? I'm not a criminal, right? Okay.
Nobody's saying that at all.
All right.
We asked you to look for you, and if you want
We are asked to look for you,
premises escort
Yeah.
and if you are on the premises, we are asked to escort you out.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, we got a booth here. Spent thousands of dollars on it. Then they decided that we violated their code of conduct 5 weeks before the show launch. 5 weeks before today.
Yeah.
So they said, I don't know, social media. Just
Yeah.
yeah, they stalked my social media. Isn't that crazy?
That's the way of the world.
I don't think it is, man. I don't think that's the way. I don't think that's the way it's worked. Being a Trump supporter shouldn't be a reason not to set up at a comic book convention, especially when I'm a comic book artist. I work for Marvel. See what I'm saying? I'm an industry professional, not just some rando. You know what I mean? So that's what they did. It's called cancel culture. We had a comic book artist who just got canceled 5 weeks ago. He killed himself. It's not. It's not going to affect my standing. Yeah, because I've already been canceled. See what I'm saying? No, by the people. By people like this. By people like this. Yeah, by people like this. Yeah, by people like this. For the same reason I can't set up here. So, see what I'm saying? Yeah. So, all right, if this door's not going to open, I'm going to exit.
We're hang on, stand by 1 minute.
So you can tell he's starting to get nervous. He's like, what's going on here? You guys going to beat me up? What the fuck?
We'll get you out here to the right door. We want to make sure we're not sounding off any alarms by going through the door.
Well, why don't we just go through the front?
We can. Not yet, though. Hang on.
Am I getting jumped out there or something? Like, what is the situation here?
Making sure the right door's open.
All right. Making sure the right door's open.
Yeah, it's very interesting because one of the rules that security is supposed to have is they're not supposed to speak unless it's a direct information to do something. So they're not supposed to converse while a camera is on because of exactly what just happened. The guy allows him to continue to talk about why we're not here and I'm a Trump fan and all of this, instead of saying, sir, just wait here. We're waiting for them to turn the alarm off of this store. So a little errors there. Now I will tell you, I know why they didn't take him out of the front, and that's would be a big no to do that by taking him out the front.
And people, they're on the phone. He'll show here in a second. You can see that guy's waiting. He's on the phone. He's waiting to hear back. They don't know anything. They just told to look for this guy, and if you see him,
What's funny is if you notice, two of these guys are actually in the pictures that we'll be sharing here in a second about another incident.
Yes.
By the way, that hair is a wolf mask because his group is called the Wolf Pack, and his intro video is a wolf theme.
Yeah.
So he brought that mask along in case he wanted to walk around
I think they
incognito.
just put me through the regular door. I don't plan on coming back. So, I mean, whether it be this door or that door, I can. These are all the guys that support me. So.
This is really good. They asked him to turn off the camera, and he said no. I'm going to replay this because it's really good what he says right here.
So, I mean, whether it be this door or that door, I can. These are all the guys that support me. So, I literally got to keep them connected. So, because they know what happened, so they knew that I was making a statement by being here.
And you won.
Yeah, and the statement was that there's no riot. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that I'm here. There's no one freaking out or feeling unsafe that I'm here.
He's not fighting anybody. He's not causing any ruckus. Yeah, like Mark Brooks did later, which we'll talk about, and Scott Kurz.
But my booth is removed. We paid thousands of dollars for it. We're comic book professionals. Yeah, they refunded it. Yep. Yeah. Oh, sorry, guys.
I'm just fast forwarding a little bit to the point that we're getting to. Here we go.
That guy's cool. That other dude was trying to low-key threaten me.
The one guy tried to grab him. The other guys, he said, was being cool.
Yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to keep this camera going, guys.
And that's the important thing, right? Right there, where he says, I'm going to do everything I can to keep this camera going. And Dave, shout out to Dave's Collection. Make sure you guys are following Dave on IG, one of the best comic book content, and NYC content on IG. He says, it's turning out to be a total CGA win. They're proving the point. And that's exactly what is the reason that he's keeping this camera going. So basically what ends up happening, you guys, is they call to the front and they basically just, let him go, right?
Why are we doing this?
Yep.
Why are we doing this to this young man with the graying beard? No one nowhere says, be undeniable. Fuck yeah, guys. Hell yeah. Big Rod said something about Frank. Hell yeah, guys. This is my wolf mask. You guys wonder why the hair keeps popping up in the camera. We did it, dude. That is fucking awesome. That feels like a fucking win, don't you think?
Vindication.
Yep.
He brought me right to the brink of throwing me out into the alley. I don't even know where that door went. It could have been death behind that door. We're in Chicago. Could have been some knee breakers back there. Right? Thanks, Frank.
So that is, to me, is just that point that they found him. They went to go kick him out, and they end up just letting him go. Like, what was the?
Do you know why?
No, that's why I'm saying this is so weird to me. Tell me why.
So here's the difference. The first difference is when you buy a booth and you have your table, you're getting tickets via the booth, and you have certain rules that you have to follow because you have the booth. He bought a ticket at the front of the door, which does not give him any restrictions. His rights are, hey, I paid your money. I can go in and do whatever I did. So I'm sure what the security did, someone said back to him, how did he get in? Oh, he bought a ticket at the front table. Oh, we can't do anything for that, right? He's not representing his booth at all. Does he make a tiny error there by saying I'm here to make a statement? Technically, yeah, you could do that. But at the end of the day, once you buy a ticket, as long as you don't break any rules that are designed for that ticket, which Dennis will be showing afterwards when the ticket is bought, and the after effects. So the second he buys the ticket, they can't do jack. I mean, it's unless he's disrupting. And that's why you don't bring someone through the front door, is because they could be a disruption. Hey, look what they're doing to me, and plenty of people can see what's going on.
And the scary part is just this. So
well, hold on. So let me give a little background before we hit this.
Yeah.
So I've run conventions for 4 years, actually multiple conventions over the last 30 years. Security is very top on my priority. I want everybody to be safe, especially around me, especially when I bring my kids to these things. 7 years ago, the most important event in comic book convention history, which I'll preface it also by saying the bigger industry was already impacted by one of the worst mass shootings in history when the Joker Dark Knight shooting
Movie
happened
theater.
at the theater in Colorado. And I remember when that happened and they said, hey, this guy's from San Diego originally. I was like, Jesus Christ. If this guy decided to make San Diego his target rather than one movie theater in Colorado, we would have been talking a mass casualty event that would impact this industry completely. Then a short period of time after that, an incident happened that Jesse was literally ground zero for. Jesse, do you want to tell them about that?
Well, here, why don't we just play this?
Well, okay, go ahead. Yep.
This could have been a Las Vegas incident. This could have been a Manchester incident.
Jason David Frank reflecting on last year's Phoenix Comic-Con.
It was, unfortunate that it happened, but I was so fortunate that blood didn't shed.
The actor best known for his role as the Green Ranger. Police say Matthew Sterling targeted Frank last year, making it into the first day of the convention with an arsenal of weapons.
He said he was here to kill you. And not only that, he had a reminder on his phone to kill JDF.
Despite the scare, Frank is back, and so are increased security measures. Fans allowed to bring in props, but they have to walk through metal detectors and wand checks. This, the first time the actor has ever been searched at a festival.
This is probably the safest con in the whole entire world right now.
Frank saying unfortunately many other large comic conventions are not following in Phoenix's footsteps. And this terrifying close call prompting him to push for changes like we're seeing here.
If blood shed, it would change the rules. Let's stop it before blood sheds.
And that was an event that happened at Phoenix Comic-Con. Rest in peace, Jason David Frank, who passed away from suicide. Another horrible loss from suicide that we shouldn't have. But it happened, of course, before he passed.
So needless to say, I'm always on guard. It's just the way I'm built. I can't not pay attention to my surroundings. I have to sit with my back against the wall at a restaurant. I have to be able to see the front door. I've taught my kids what to do in every situation that I can think of. So my daughter and I decide we're huge fans of Ted Lasso. We're going to go back and meet the Ted Lasso actors. If you have that picture, you can pop it up there.
I don't, but I have the video that ready. So.
Oh, okay. So while we're walking back to the actor area, like I said, the Artist Alley is a quick cut through to get back to the actor area. I see this. So this man, just to let you know, is not a character, not doing a costume part. He is wearing his underwear, some form of leg brace, his shoes. He has a badge around his neck, and he is walking around this convention like a scared animal dropped into the middle of a city. I don't know. If you look, there's also, you can see green paint on the back of his neck. We don't know what that was about. His hair is straggly.
He looks like he's got mange. Speaking of Shane Davis.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see this guy walking through Artist Alley, and I put my daughter behind me, and I'm like, all right, sweetie, we're going to stay back a little bit and just watch this guy. I realize that he's just wandering through. Hey, he could be completely harmless, but I don't think so. He's walking back towards the actor area where I assume all of the top-notch security are there to protect the actors from psycho fans like the Punisher and Jason David Frank. Surely we could get some security back there. So I walk up to the photograph area, and I'm like, hey, do you have a way to get security over here ASAP? And she's like, why? I go, do you see this guy over here? And she takes one look at it and goes, oh, Jesus. Yeah, let me call security right now. So let's just start the clock at that. I followed him for about 5 or 10 minutes, went back to security. At one point, he ducked into an elevator, freight elevator that was open. And he's just sitting down in the elevator. And then he gets back up and he's wandering through the food court, literally like Gollum. I call him the C2E2 Gollum. And I'm like, okay, do you see that guy? And she's like, yeah. So she calls security immediately. So the clock starts at the 10-minute mark that I've already been following this guy. He's wandering around the food court for about another 5 or 10 minutes. Security is nowhere to be found. He leaves the food court, and this is when I actually took this video. And I'm like, okay, look, I'm going to leave my daughter here with you guys. I'm going to follow this guy to make sure he doesn't do anything. I start following him, and he makes his way through Artist Alley, actually over by the publisher area where Josh Blaylock is set up, the publisher and small press area. Everybody is like, is that a character? Is that cosplay? What is he? Half the people, I would say 3/4 of the people don't even acknowledge that he exists. If you look, nobody even turns to look at this guy. You know, this guy walks around him and puts his comic book in his girlfriend's stroller there. Nobody is looking at this guy. And all my red flags are off on this guy. And so I follow him for another 20 minutes from when they called security. He makes his way all the way over to the left where the food court, the second food court is, which is like an elevated food court area. At that point, my daughter calls and says, hey, security finally got here. That's at the 20-minute mark from the photograph area calling security saying, we have a person back here you need to see. So for 20 minutes, this guy's wandering around. So now we're at 30 minutes. It takes him another 10 minutes to get from the actor area over to the food court because my daughter's on the phone with me saying, hey, security's here. They don't know where he's at. I'm like, he's over here at the food court in the middle, up on the second floor. It takes him another 10 minutes to get from the actor area all the way over to the food court. And that's when you see the next video or picture. If you can get to and he ends up stopping on the stairs. And look, we have our little buddy and our other buddy from the Malin video. It took them 30 minutes to come and talk to this guy.
So are you saying there's a conspiracy theory between these guards and Malin?
No, there's not. There's not a conspiracy theory. It's
I'm joking with you.
I'm just saying if they're so busy running around chasing John Malin's and whatever de jour, banning that happens, but this guy can walk around for a minimum of 40 minutes in his underwear, crouched over like Gollum. And like I saw him, like, how everybody in Artist Alley has little lights to kind of shine on their booth and they run it with the power off of the he came up on one of these lights and was like, and then started walking forward. The guy was unhinged in some form. I mean, personally, he looked like a tweaker, somebody who like was taking something and had to strip his clothes off and, because he was so hot and whatever. After this, they escorted him out, and I never saw the guy again.
Yep. Yeah, again, I think this is one of these things. If this was at a coin convention, it would raise alarms, right? And you said it yourself. No one's paying attention to this guy. This guy's not technically bothering anybody. You got to keep in mind these security guards don't know anything different between a cosplayer and a crazy dude, right?
Yeah.
And a crazy dude could be a cosplayer, right? So at the end of the day, I think what their best method was to keep that camera on them, right? Wherever their cameras are in that thing, and watch them and kind of look for the things they look for, and actually get them in an area that isn't surrounded by people. And I think that's what you saw happen in this case.
No, literally, they did. Here's the thing: if the actor photograph area calls in an emergency, they weren't looking at him on camera. It took them 20 minutes to go back to the actor area.
You got to remember, this is C2E2. It's not like one bathroom is close to the women's bathroom. I mean, it's a hike. They don't have a lot of. You got to keep in mind, you're looking at con security guards here. You're not looking at.
No, that was hired staff. There were on duty Chicago police throughout the convention. There was security for McCormick Place.
Right.
That was the white uniforms. Right. This was private security that was hired by C2E2 and Reed Pop in the black shirts with the red things. Nobody had eyes on this guy for the 20 minutes that the actor area called and said, hey, we need security back here, to the point where they showed up to where my daughter was, and I was already 20 minutes away at the food court when they finally showed up to the actor area. So they weren't keeping eyes on him. They weren't watching him eagle eye. They were slowly responding to an event that was called in from the actor area, which I think probably should be the #1 secured area, especially after the Jason David Frank incident. Right. And that's where you get your Jodie Fosters and your Jodie Foster psychos and your jump over the fence with a bag of duct tape psychos. That's where we should have just a complete blanket of security, and there was nothing.
Yeah.
And like I said, it took them another 10 minutes to get from the actor area to the food court area, where I had to tell them, my daughter is sitting there relaying me talking on the phone. He's not around here. He's actually over in the second floor food court. My dad's watching him.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's when they showed up, and they're like, where is he? Where is he? And I'm like, he's right up there. Okay.
I think the point of this whole thing, and the reason that we're playing this, I see Ryan asking what's the point of this whole thing. The point is saying that security should be used for real security reasons, not to be part of your online social media feuds, okay? That's what this was, in my opinion. This was people not liking what CG or Comicsgate people do online on their social media and saying you can't come here because of how you act on social media, when in all reality they should be saying, okay, as long as this guy is professional, he's not causing any fights, he's not causing any violence in the place, he's not causing people to want to leave the con, like
he's not in his boxer shorts hunched over like Quasimodo.
Right. Yes. Well, I mean, I'm always devil's advocate on these type of issues. I think he actually lost the opportunity to have massive amount of sales by not renting out a place right next to it or as close as possible at a hotel.
I already told them. I already suggested that they didn't want to do that.
Yeah, and to lose that great opportunity to tenfold your business. If you want to make a point, how you make a point is you sell a whole bunch of product, right? That's how you make a point. And you take that distraction and you bring those sales over to you, and you bring that social networking over to you. I don't think, when I think of these situations, because I'm always saying, hey, sales solve everything. Sales are the main reason. Now, in course of Dennis is talking about safety to youngins and people in general at a convention with the guy with no shirt on. I get that point. But in this case, we also have missed opportunities when the opportunities arise. So hopefully they learn from this one, and the next time this happens.
I don't know if you have it queued up, Brian, but they had a massive Comicsgate meetup over at the Hyatt. That actually took up the entire back patio area around the fire pits with the chairs. And I want to say they probably had 50 or 60. They probably had about 50 or 60 Comicsgate fans show up there.
Yeah.
It was a kind of a fan building event, which is always good for your brand.
This was so that was John Malin, the other artist professional that was part of that booth that got kicked out was Shane Davis. And Shane Davis did something that I think is hilarious. He went as his alter ego called the Mange. Okay, he calls himself the Mange. He puts on this stupid tiger pimp outfit.
King.
Yeah, Tiger King.
Looks like the Tiger King.
He looks like the Tiger King. Yeah. So Shane is walking around the con no problem. John just went as himself. And you can see the difference. Now, this is John walking up to Shane and telling them what happened. This is interesting.
Well, save for Saturday. That'll be cool. All right, appreciate that.
They're talking to a fan.
Ethan? I don't think he's here. I think he was.
Oh, hit pause real quick. Hit pause real quick. So the word had gotten out that, Malin, Shane, and Ethan were banned from the convention. If they showed up, they'd be escorted out. Ethan actually stole a video of somebody walking through the Chicago airport, and then played that with a voiceover, pretending like he arrived in Chicago, in hopes that the security would be looking around for him as kind of a distraction.
Yeah.
Actually, a couple people cosplayed as Ethan.
Yeah.
Mint Salad's boyfriend apparently cosplayed as Ethan on that day.
So
there was a lot of subterfuge and having fun.
The only ones sneaking into the con are right here. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're the only ones out here doing the Lord's work for our chat. So, and it was an incredible victory today, guys. Go watch my live stream if you missed it. Man, epic. Thought I was going to get my knees broken. They escorted me to the emergency exit. And then they're big guys. Well, I just short guys, but stocky. Yeah, I mean, you'll see them. So, yeah. They're one low-key threatened me, and I might have caught the audio on the low-key. Like, he was like,
oh, I thought he was dressed as Loki.
Like, no, he was like in my ear, like whispering, and I pulled my phone up to try to catch the audio. And he's telling me to turn it off. I'm like, no. So, and he changed his tune. And to his credit, he was the guy that let me go too. So, good old Frank, guys. Shout out to Frank for doing the right thing.
Shout out to Frank.
Yeah, for doing the right thing. Yeah, he did. He let me go. So that's why I'm wandering freely. It took him 30 minutes to find me.
30 minutes. So, anyways,
in that same 30 minutes, they found John Malin. But in that same 30 minutes, they didn't spot a tweaker in his underwear crawling around Artist Alley back in the actors area.
Yeah. So they went and they had their own little hangout and that type of stuff, which was very interesting. But let's go ahead and show Dennis a little love because he pulled off something that was pretty funny. Here we go.
Hey, Dennis. Question for you from JC. Are you selling comics at the con or just hanging out?
I'm just hanging out, man. I just come here to hang out and meet people, and I ran into these guys down in the lobby.
Hell yeah. Great, man. Let's see.
You can't pay me to work.
Look, Dennis, Dale Keown is in our chat right now.
Oh, I love Dale Keown. Holy shit, dude. I sell so many of your comic books, brother.
Legend. Absolute legend. Yeah. People take it for granted that Dale Keown's out.
Yeah, I own Wonder World Comics, and we're a vintage comic book store that doesn't carry new books. So,
where are you located?
Monroe, Michigan, between Toledo and Detroit. So.
All right. So here comes. This was classic, Dennis. This is classic. I got to give you credit on this one.
You got to go to the beginning of it.
No. Hold on. This is it right here.
Dennis, you're my dad. Somebody said you look like my big brother too. You look. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we're both from Michigan.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you never know.
Is your mom hot?
So if you guys didn't catch that, the chat started saying Dennis looks like his dad, okay? And let me replay that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're both from Michigan.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you never know.
Is your mom hot?
That was great. But anyways, the best part is this. Here we go. Let me find it. Where is it? I think it's right here.
Right before that. There
Right
you
before
go.
that?
Nope, before that.
Where is it?
It's right in there. Just hit play. No, go back. Go back to like the 5-minute mark.
Like, we don't have a John Malin. No, they didn't say we had John Malin Davis. They're just like, we don't have him. And I told them, I swear, we said Shane Davis. Oh, he might be.
Can I put a $20 super chat on screen? Oh, look at that. Yay. Here's it on me, boys.
How's it going, man?
That was pretty good, dude. Beers on me, boys. $20 super chat. So
who are these guys?
So that's Shane Davis, who with J. Michael Straczynski did Superman Earth 1 and 2.
Okay.
And he did covers, interiors for DC Forever, and he's done recently. He did the Taigugi 1 and 25.
He's great artist.
For Marvel.
Probably
prolific artist, but he was canceled because of his political views, and then went to Comicsgate.
So were they doing a podcast at the time?
And no, the other guy,
they were just doing a live
Jesse,
stream.
the other guy was John Malin, the guy that they kicked out. That was the other guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were just doing a live stream. Hey, we're in Chicago. If you want to come by, see us. We're at the Hyatt, at the Arc Bar in the Hyatt. I saw them broadcasting. I got the alert, and then I saw the ceiling. I'm like, oh, I know where that part of the hotel is. So I just popped down from my room to give him a $20 super chat in person.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool, man. But I just listen. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like Comicsgate, and for whatever reason, I get that. I have so much respect for what John Malin did and how he stood up for what he believes in. And I'm going to tell this story because this is why I feel this way. Somebody very, very close to me, closer than family, right? Or family. Let's just say that they are family. Okay. They tell me that during the pandemic, they were pressured by their job to get the jab. In doing so, a few weeks after getting the jab, they've been having medical issues, heart issues, and they start going back to the doctors, and they find out, they have whatever that heart issue is that a lot of people were getting. This person told me that they feel so terrible about not standing on what they believe in and saying no to getting that, and the only reason they got it is because they were bullied at work, and that they wake up every day and they have a reminder that they did not stand up for what they believe in. And that stood with me for a long time. And I don't care if you believe in getting the jab or not. I'm just saying that was the story about how important it is to stand up for what you believe in. And when you don't do it, the regret that is there. And I saw John Malin go in whatever way was important to him, protest what happened to him at this, and put his face out there. He didn't have to go and cosplay. Ethan was saying, I'm going to cosplay and go do this and, whatever. He did what he needed to do to stand up for his laurels, to stand up for his ethics.
Well, and as Jesse and I are always talking about, that strengthens his brand. If he was just one of the people in the chat was like, oh, he's just a whiny bitch and that's soft. That's not what that shows to me.
No.
That shows a guy who says something on his podcast, says something in his art, has built a fan base. And when they said, no, you're not allowed to come here and meet your fans, he says, my brand is strong enough that I can still go there. I can still meet fans. I will put conviction behind my actions. And I think he comes out on the other side stronger than he went into that with.
Yeah. And again, standing on what you believe in is very important. And it's something that will stay important to me. And shout out to John Malin for doing that. And Zabit, I love you. You know that. You're a longtime viewer here. He says, Bryan acting like going to C2E2 is like getting a COVID shot. You hate to see it.
Actually, you know what? The C2E2, December 2021 C2E2, they actually had COVID shot mandates or negative results. And when I got there, I had taken my negative test prior to it, my kids as well. You had to go through security and show your test results. When we went through that, all of a sudden it was just it was an extra layer that they didn't say on the thing, which was, no, if you do not have the vaccine, you have to get a COVID test every day of the con before you are allowed to come in, which would have required us to find a pharmacy at 6 a.m. and wait for 2 hours to be able to come into the con. And that was when I was with Whatnot and I had a 10 a.m. So literally I had to sneak in the con every day, or I would have had to spend hours and $50 each to get a COVID test every morning. So yeah, they did impose crazy COVID restrictions on just attending a Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, we're 2.5 hours into it. We're about done with the show. And I'll end it on a good note. This isn't comics, but if there's any comics professionals out there, this is one of the most important things that I think that you can see to how you treat your fans, and especially the younger generation. So let's end it on a good note, everybody. And let me show you something very interesting. This is, if you don't know who Rod Carew is a Hall of Fame baseball player. And I'm going to show you guys something. Here we go.
Gas station today to get some bubble gum. And
hold on here. Here we go.
So I go to the gas station today to get some bubble gum. And who's standing right in front of me? That guy. Oh yeah, Hall of Famer Rod Carew. He asked me what I did for a living, and I said, well, I coach youth baseball, and I'm going to be running a Sandlot game down the road in about 30 minutes. Some other folks come by and ask for his autograph and a photo, and as I was leaving, he said, hey son, where'd you say that game was you're playing? I said, it's about a quarter of a mile down the road on the left. And wouldn't you know it, Rod Carew showed up.
So I thought I'd come over and say hello to you guys, because I remember when I was your age, baseball was very interesting to me.
Hey, can you guys give Rod Carew an attaboy 1, 2, 3?
We said our goodbyes, and as Rod Carew got into his car, he looked at me and he said, hey coach, you'll see me again. And then he left. I don't know why I went to that gas station. I never go to that gas station. But maybe it's true. If you build it, they will come. So
that is awesome. Absolutely amazing. Much respect to Rod Carew. Much respect to John Malin. Much respect to everybody that is in this industry and that loves comic books. Much respect to all the 80 live viewers that are watching this show right now, and all the viewers who watch this show on the Rewind. We love you guys. Come hang out with us every Tuesday night for this show right here. plus special Thursday specials that we have coming up, which include a very good one, maybe nerdy or nerd-erotic. We'll see. Adios.